Greetings, family. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Wednesday, February the 28th, 2024, and the time is 2:02 p.m. Welcome. I'm glad to see everybody. It looks like I just lost access. For some reason, I'm losing access to one of my Facebook pages, so I apologize for that. But for all of you that are here, welcome. Please check in, family. Let us know where you're hailing from. I'm so glad to see you all today. Some of you have already heard this news, and I did share a little bit about it on yesterday, but I promise to go into more detail today about what's going on in the banking industry as it relates to the revaluation of currencies. Now, keep checking in. And before I go deep into the podcast, let me just say that a revaluation is just reinstating the value of a country's currency back based on the assets held by that country. So it's reinstating or reinstalling a country's currencies based on the resources and assets that the country has. So we are waiting for a global currency reset where all the currencies worldwide will be revalued or reinstated back to their rightful places based on the resources that each countries have. This is why the countries for the last few years have repatriated their gold and their artifacts back to them from the Vatican and back from London, from the Queen, and from other places. They repatriated all of their resources that was stolen, their art, some of their artwork was stolen, some of their gold was stolen, back to their countries so that they, first of all, can lay claim to what's rightfully theirs, and so they can back up all these currencies. So globally, you're experiencing all the countries establishing their sovereignty and making a statement that they're going to use their own currencies and gold. So we're returning to a gold standard or a gold back system. So keep checking in, family. I do have some beautiful news. Some of you have already heard about this, but I said I would go into detail today. Now, if you missed it yesterday, we talked about how King Charles only has 6 months to live. Pay attention to all of these numbers, 6 months to live. We also talked about how Rothschild, Lord Jacob Rothschild, died at 87. 8 plus 7 equal 15. 1 plus 5 and 15 equals 6. So we're going to talk about what the 6 represents a little later in the podcast and why that is important for humanity today. So check in, family. Somebody says, yes, wow, this is really about to happen. Great day. The truth for Jeanette. We have great news today. I'm excited to see you. Good morning. Champion, it's so good to see you as well. Hello, keep checking in, family. You're telling each other good morning, grand rising. Peace, Rodney Bay. I'm always happy to see you. Let's go. Let's get this party started. Sending love. Keep checking in, family. I don't want to keep you long. Good evening. Who is this? Kathy from England. Wow, it's good to have you here. Charlotte's checking in the house. That's a very exciting time from Orlando. You're only, about 2 hours from me? I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Good afternoon, Immaculate Cleaning Company, Green Clean Company, excuse me. She's from, he or she, I don't know, female or male, but from Charlotte. Good evening from the UK. Hi, Mike. It's good to see you as always. Oh, Modesto, California is in the house. Keep checking in, family. Good afternoon, Ronell Bay. I'm so excited. Hi, family. Peace to you all. Hi, C. Lackey, Daniel Stephen. It's so good to see you. Brother Jamal's in the house, always a faithful viewer. I'm so glad to see you. Family, this is exciting news for those of us who hold currencies. And so many people may be watching that don't know about exotic or foreign currencies. So for many years, some of us have been, or maybe just recently years, have been collecting the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, the Venezuelan bolivar, the Afghani, the Indonesian rupiah, the Indian rupee, and some other currencies. These are the currencies or the money held by each country. Now, the reason why people are collecting these is because they're preparing for, like I said, a reinstatement of the natural lawful value of those currencies during this global currency reset. Looks like, I'm sorry, I keep losing certain social media. I don't know why. losing asset to this podcast. I don't know why they keep kicking people out of the podcast, but many people are preparing for a revaluation. So keep checking in while I gather my thoughts. When the StreamYard has let me know that they're kicking me out of certain social media platforms, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. So what happens is whenever the United States met with a country that did not want to go along with our financial system, or they did not want to go along with the Federal Reserve banking system, then, or use the United States dollar for trade, then the United States government would send our military over to those countries and start a war. So we would start a war, and or we would put sanctions on those countries just for not wanting to play along and using the United States dollar for trade. Well, that happened with Kuwait, some of the other countries. So when the United States would send military over to those other countries and start a war, the military at the high level, people who knew what to do and knew what was really going on in the financial sense behind the scenes, would buy that country's currencies while the currency was low. So when you cause a war, like say in Kuwait, then the country's currency will become significantly devalued because of the war. And you will have decimation of the economy over there, such as in Kuwait. So military, high professionals in the military, so-called elite families, billionaires all over the planet, CEOs of banks, and just billionaires all over the planet will go to those current countries, buy the devalued currency, and then wait until after the war. Hold on to the currency and wait till after the war. Then after the war, the United States would go back into the country, rebuild it. And then the country's GDP would explode. The country's currency would revalue or be reinstated to its lawful or natural value. And then those military professionals, elite people, billionaires who had bought the currency while it was devalued and decimated through war, they would then, after the war, go to the bank and exchange and get a higher exchange rate. And they became millionaires and billionaires overnight. Well, that happened as recently as 1991 in Kuwait. And now some people are just finding out about that, because whereas before only the elite knew about it, now the creator and certain people up in the military want us, we the little people, or we the everyday people, to know about these revaluation of currencies. So now that you're having a global currency reset, not to be confused with the Great Reset, the global currency reset is a resetting of the financial system, the destruction, of the SWIFT system based on the United States dollar, completely decimating it, and a resurrection of a gold back system. So now you're having a global currency reset where all the currencies worldwide are being reset back to their normal value based on the country's resources that each country has, and all the country's currencies will be 1-to-1. So let me slow down. I want to take my time because I have a lot of information in my head and sometimes I get kind of thrown off. So bear with me, family. Keep checking in and let me know if you have something to add to the conversation. And if you also if you want to join the conversation, I can send you a link. I love you too. I love you back. I can send you a link and you can join the conversation, especially if you have something, hello, my darling, to add. Okay. So what is going on in the news? I see you checking in. What has most recently happened is that on February 20th, which was just 8 days ago, global banks met to prepare for Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes. Most of you are familiar with Basel III compliancy. Basel III banking compliancy just states that banks had to be monitored and they had to institute certain regulations and rules to make sure that the banking system was lawful and fair. Okay, lawful and fair. So no longer could they do nefarious banking practices like steal your money out of the banks, trade with your money. They can no longer exact usury or interest rates on certain loans, and all of the credit policies, all of that came under fire and under scrutiny by the good people who are in power now that have decimated, or I should say, taken down the nefarious banking policies. So Basel III compliancy says that they had to first recognize gold as a tier one asset. Gold being a tier one asset means that gold now has to be recognized as money. Well, the second part of Basel III compliancy means that now that the banks had to accept or prepare for revaluation assets or revaluation reserves. And I'll go into that in a little detail right now. I'm going to show you the article that talks about, wow, I got kicked out of another, Twitter just kicked me out. Not Twitter. One of the social media platforms. So let me show you this article right here, family. I can get to it, that talks about this meeting that the banks held just February the 20th. Global banks gear up for Tier 2 capital notes issuance under Basel III guidelines. A consortium of leading banks, you see this, many of the leading banks worldwide, including BBVA, Bank of America Securities, ING, Mashreq, Morgan Stanley, and Standard Chartered Bank, are set to meet with global investors on February the 20th, 2024 to assess their appetite for United States or USD denominated Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes. This strategic move aims to bolster the bank's capital structures and promote financial stability according with the Basel III guidelines. So let me break this down a little bit. These leading banks, BBVA, Bank of America Securities, ING, Mashreq, Morgan Stanley, and Standard Chartered Bank all met with global investors 8 days ago to assess their appetite or preparedness for USD denominated Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes. What are Tier 2 notes? They're preparing for Tier 2 notes or to receive Tier 2 notes. Who are they going to get those Tier 2 notes from, and what are Tier 2 notes? So let me show you here. I do have an article that shows what those Tier 2 notes are. One second. Keep checking in, family. Keep talking to each other while we go through these articles. Tier 2 capital definition. There are 4 components. Okay. What is Tier 2 capital? The term Tier 2 capital refers to one of the components of a bank's required reserves. So we already know that the bank had to recognize under Basel III gold as a Tier 1 asset. So gold would be one of the things that's required for the bank to now hold. Tier 1, gold, okay? The term Tier 2, however, refers to one of the components of a bank's required reserves that's different from gold. Tier 2 is designated as the second or supplementary layer of a bank's capital and is composed of items such as revaluation reserves. So now I'm going to read that again. Tier 2 is designated as the second or supplementary layer of a bank's capital. So the bank had at least 2 layers, the first layer being Tier 1 assets and the second layer being Tier 2 assets. And this is the supplementary level of a bank's capital composed of items such as revaluation reserves, hybrid instruments, and subordinated term debt. It is considered less secure than Tier 1 capital, the other form of a bank's capital, because it's more difficult to liquidate. In the United States, the overall capital requirement is partially based on the weighted risk of a bank's assets. Here are 4 takeaways from this particular article. Tier 2 capital is the second layer of a capital that a bank must keep as a part of its required reserves. So now banks have to have this second layer of defense or protection, a Tier 2 asset. So that's the first component. The second component is the tier is comprised of revaluation reserves. What's a revaluation reserve? Your currency, the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, the what else? Afghani Afghanistan currency, the Afghani, Indonesian rupiah, Indian rupee, and other currencies. This tier is comprised of revaluation reserves, general provisions, subordinated term debt, and hybrid capital instruments. There are two levels of tier two capital. There's an upper level and then there's a lower level. Tier two capital is subordinate to tier one. Tier one, of course, is going to take precedence because it's gold. Gold is money. According to the Constitution, the only thing you can use to pay off debt are silver and gold. Silver and gold, according to the Constitution, is lawful money, right? Or they are lawful money. This is why, and I've shown you the articles, you can text it, you can look it up now, 43 states have moved to reclaim silver and gold as money because everybody's preparing. You can also look at the King World's article that says the whole world is hurtling back to gold. You can also look at articles that say that banks are hoarding gold in record numbers. In 2022, banks hoarded 1,136 tons of gold in the third quarter of 2022. In 2023, the third quarter, banks hoarded the second highest amount of gold ever, and nobody knew why. It was because they were preparing for Basel III compliancy to make sure they recognize gold as a tier one asset. These assets protect banks against bankruptcy and against losses. So that was tier one. Tier two includes revaluation reserves. So again, upper level and lower level. The fourth component is tier two capital is subordinate to tier one capital and is considered riskier as it is more difficult to calculate if a bank needs to liquidate it. So I'll leave this in the description section for you to read more or further into at your leisure. Let's go back to the original greetings, family, the original article that I just showed you, so you can see a little bit more about how banks are preparing or why this is important. In a move that underscores the evolving landscape of international finance, a consortium of leading banks have embarked on a pivotal mission. Authorized by an undisclosed bank, I'm not sure which bank that is, these financial titans are set to traverse continents. Meetings scheduled across Asia, Europe, and the United States on February the 20th. Their objective is clear yet complex: to assess their appetite of global investors for USD denominated Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes, a critical component in strengthening the bank's capital structure. Let's look at the purpose of this. Let me see if I can find the purpose. Here it is. In conclusion, as the consortium of banks embark on a critical mission, the eyes of the financial world will be watching. The successful issuance of Tier 2 capital notes will not only serve as bellwether for the health of the banking sector, but also a signal of the industry's adaptability in the face of evolving regulations. Why? Let me see if I can show you it in this article, because the purpose of Tier 2 notes is to provide an additional buffer to protect the bank from losses and to avert bankruptcies. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, here it is. The essence of Tier 2 capital. In other words, the banks are preparing for a revaluation of currencies and the currency exchange because they need your foreign currencies, these revaluation assets, in order to bolster the bank's health and in order to protect them against losses and to protect the banks against bankruptcy. And you can see it here in the essence of Tier 2 capital. At the heart of this financial maneuvering lies the concept of Tier 2 capital, a term that resonates with significance in the corridors of global banking. Tier 2 capital, as defined under the Basel III guidelines, plays a vital role in a bank's ability to absorb losses and avert bankruptcy. So the banks need you. The banks need me to bring in our currencies, and they're going to give us an exchange rate, of course, in order to protect the bank against losses. This is why I don't support the ideologies that you need to have a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA. I don't believe you have to sign an NDA with the banks when you make these exchanges, because they need you. The bankers are now working for you. The banks now work for we the people. This is why articles have been coming out saying that a lot of banks are closing, and the ones that are remaining now are only there for wealth management purposes. You can find that article. I've reported on that. They need you. Nobody can tell you that you can't talk about your money. We are sovereign. Our republic has been restored. It's time that we start operating in our sovereignty. They need you for the health of the bank. They need you to protect themselves from bankruptcy, to protect themselves from losses. So if anybody needs to sign a non-disclosure agreement, it would be the bankers. In my eyes, they need to keep their mouth shut about what you're holding. Also, a non-disclosure agreement is only something that you sign if this is information that's not been made known to the public. Well, the public knows about the revaluation of currencies and a global currency reset now, so I don't happen to believe that you have to have a non-disclosure agreement. So here again, at the heart of this financial maneuvering lies the concept of Tier 2 capital, a term that resonates with significance in the corridors of global banking. Tier 2 capital, as defined under the Basel III guidelines, plays a vital role in a bank's ability to absorb losses and avert bankruptcy. It comprises elements such as undisclosed reserves, subordinated term debt, and hybrid instruments, which collectively provides a buffer against financial distresses. Your currencies that you hold provide a buffer against financial distresses. So the banks need you and they need me. And according to these articles, they met on February the 20th to determine their appetite, their preparedness for receiving your currencies and the revaluation or the exchange of these currencies. This is an exciting time to be alive. This is excellent, exciting news. So if you have currencies, hold on for dear life, or as people in the financial world say, hodl, hold on with everything you have. Do not exchange or give up your currencies. Don't get discouraged. Stay encouraged. The issuance of Tier 2 notes, therefore, is not just a matter of regulatory compliance, but a strategic move to fortify the bank's resilience against unforeseen economic shocks. This explanation here is also the reason why I don't necessarily feel comfortable about going to a strange place that might be privately owned and call themselves a redemption center. Now, maybe people that use the word redemption center, maybe they're referring to the banks, but I'm not going to a place that calls itself a redemption center. I need a bank that is Basel compliant, including Basel III compliant, and that's being regulated so that I know that they are being regulated by benevolent factors and by we the people. So I don't want an 800 number. I don't need it. Anybody can buy an 800 number. This is just Dr. Kia Pruitt talking. Now I support and I am okay with people that say we're going to have an 800 number. It's just not something that I'm comfortable with, because anybody can buy an 800 number. How do I know it's the right number to get? And I'm not necessarily in agreement that you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, because nobody can tell me how to manage my money, what to do with my money, how much I'm going to get. I can tell you to sign an NDA and keep your mouth shut as a banker. And I don't want to go to nobody's private redemption center. This is just Dr. Kia Pruitt. I need to go to some place that I believe is heavily regulated and Basel compliant. So having said that, let's move along. If you need more information about what's going on economically and even geopolitically, then I thank you. I would recommend, and I've said this before, that you follow Ariel on Twitter. And I have to give credit to where credit is due, because even though I had this information and people sent me articles or just said, did you know about this like a week or two ago, I wasn't confident enough to actually explain it until I researched and I kept reading and asking questions. And then I went to Ariel's Twitter account to see if he was speaking on it. So let's see what he has to say about this. Ariel here, this is what he looks like on Twitter. I recommend you follow him. This was an official banking announcement, he said. Global banks gear up for Tier 2 capital notes issuance under Basel III guidelines. And let's see how he makes it plain for us. The purpose of Tier 2 reserves. Capital Tier 1 capital. This is the thick, strong inner wall, he says, made of things like shareholder equity and retained earnings. And I'd like to add gold, because we know gold became banks had to recognize gold as a Tier 1 asset under Basel III compliancy. It's the first line of defense against financial trouble. Secondly, Tier 2 capital is a second wall that's not as strong as the first one, but still valuable. It's made up of things like undisclosed reserves, subordinated debt, and hybrid capital instruments. And one article says also revaluation reserves. So revaluation reserves, including your Iraqi dinar and all those other currencies. Tier 2, a revaluation asset, I should say, excuse me, not a revaluation reserve, a revaluation asset. So a revaluation asset are those currencies such as the IQD or Iraqi dinar and other foreign currencies. All of those are considered as it relates to banks now having to be recognized as having Tier 2 assets. Banks are holding meetings right now as of February the 20th to help set up this safety net against the coming currency revaluation that will phase out the fiat currency by converting your Iraqi dinar into U.S. Treasury bills that the banks will use as reserves. So to make it plain, your Iraqi dinar, your Vietnamese dong, and your other foreign currencies are deemed as a revaluation asset. Banks are preparing to receive your revaluation asset and to be able to handle the amount of revaluation assets or currencies that you're going to bring in, because they need those currencies to bolster them and to buffer them, against any type of financial loss or bankruptcy. So you will basically create, you and I, if you have currencies, a financial blanket against the coming black swan event when banks will have to weather this storm. So if you happen to have, let's say, 10 to 50 million IQD, you just bolstered the reserves of the bank that will do your exchange. The purpose of Tier 2 reserves, like other elements of Tier 2 capital, is to provide an additional buffer to protect the bank from losses. It acts as a cushion before the bank has to tap into core capital and potentially affect its ability to lend money. So he says, to further break it down, it just means the assets that you have absorb losses. If the bank faces bad loans or other financial difficulties, then Tier 2 reserves can be used to absorb those losses before they reach the bank's capital. This helps to protect depositors and other creditors. Next, it maintains financial stability. By having a strong Tier 2 capital base, banks can weather financial storms more easily and maintain their ability to lend money and support the economy. He asked the question, do you now understand your role as a currency holder? You and I will be the lifeline of banks going forward. So now we have a whole new type of banking system. You and I will be the lifeline of the banks. The banks know this, which is why they're preparing to serve your best financial interest once the IQD is trading globally on the Forex market. The only thing I understand or overstand we're waiting on now is for the IQD to trade globally on the Forex market. So I hope that's brought some ease to your mind for those of you who have currencies. Let me take just a pause to see what some of you all are saying or some of the questions that you have. Thank God for you blowing the lid off all those junk protocols. Thank you. I heard from two people that the FDIC lifted how much you're allowed in your bank accounts. They're saying you're allowed 2 million, not 250,000. Oh, okay, good. I never believed them when they try to tell us limitations. I think people just regurgitate what they've heard some of the gurus in this space say. But that's good news that the FDIC lifted how much you're allowed to have in your bank. What I would encourage you to do, and I'm not a financial advisor, but if you still have some questions about whether or not banks have policies that are benevolent, then I would suggest that you consider, once you exchange your currencies, putting your currencies or your money or digital credits into hard assets or something very valuable like land, like silver and gold, and what else, businesses or something like that, just to bring you some ease and some peace of mind, because we've been through so much with these banks. We don't even know. Some people don't know if they can trust the banking policies, even though now they have to be Basel III and Basel IV compliant. Who in the way? Who? We need this ASAP. We've been waiting. Yes, yes. Oh, you said the World Health Organization is in the way? Or are you asking who is in our way? I see my brother's calling me. What about the ZIM? The ZIM bond, I know people say you redeem the bonds. I'm not sure. So I don't want to go into that because I'm not sure how or where you would redeem the bonds. It would seem to me that it would be in the banks like everything else. But when I get more information about that, I'll bring it to you. What do you think, Dan? Because I'm not sure. You're welcome. Sister Jacqueline says, greetings, Dr. Pruitt. Thank you for keeping up and keeping us informed with this information. It has to play out this way to wake up the sleepers, Sister Janet says. You can't tell the public, you have to show them. No question, but love the information. Thank you, Gerald. What does this mean for credit unions? I'm not sure. Hello, Tropically Lady. Remember, you don't spend wildly. Thank you, Rye Guy. RY or Rye Guy says, put your money into an interest-bearing account and only spend the interest you make. Okay. And add some back to the principal for future growth. You must have a plan. Dan says, here the ZIM is going to change into currency. Is this true? I don't know. But I will tell you that Zimbabwe did make an announcement to back their currency with gold. Excuse me. That was most like maybe a week or two ago. All right. So what's next on my agenda? We read about Ariel, what he had to say. If you're not sure if the revaluation of currencies, how that plays out is real, let's take a look at what happened in 1991. Many of you know that the Kuwaiti dinar revalued in 1991, and that was recorded and documented. It was recorded in the New York Times, and many people took the article from the New York Times and placed it into their article. Now, because you have to go to the New York Times and actually pay for it. So here is what we have. And this was published by godskingdom.org. It's also in the New York Times. I do have the New York Times article, but it's saved in my Gmail somewhere, stored in a folder. So let me use this God's Kingdom article that talks about what happened in 1991. I happen to know somebody, one soldier, and of course it was he and his brother that were involved in this revaluation of the Kuwaiti dinar. And he told me he made $1 million, but his brother made multi-millions. He became a multi-millionaire. So these guys, the guy that I know was at a lower level in the military. His brother was in a much higher level. So his brother's the one who alerted him to buy the Kuwaiti dinar when it was decimated through war. Because, we went to war with Kuwait. And when we went to war with Kuwait, we decimated their economy. Stay with me, family. We decimated their economy, and their currency became significantly devalued. Before the war, their currency was something like $3.47, and they had the strongest currency in the world at the time. But during the war, the currency devalued, and then after the war, America then went back into Kuwait, rebuilt the infrastructure there, and the gross domestic product, the GDP, went up. The economy started booming again, and the currency, the Kuwaiti dinar, revalued back to $3.47. So those people who had the dinar and held it through the war and after the war, waited till the economy started booming, once their currency was reinstated back to its original value, they made millions. Now, the guy that I know who said he only made 1 million, only made $1 million because he got discouraged holding on to the Kuwaiti dinar. He didn't believe it would revalue. He thought maybe it was just a farce. He thought maybe his brother was making stuff up. Everybody else didn't know about this. So was it really secret, or did it make sense? So he sold some of his Kuwaiti dinar, and he said held on to 1 million worth, which he's happy about that. But $1 million can go very quickly. And he enjoyed, he spent it, he had a good time. But now he no longer has that money. So hold on for dear life. Now let's look at this New York Times article. This is the New York Times article from 1991 reporting the revaluation of the Kuwaiti dinar. And if you stay with me, I'm going to show you a video where President Donald Trump says we have 35 billion Iraqi dinar, IQD, in our banks right now. So listen to this Kuwaiti dinar revaluation article. When Iraq invaded Kuwait in August of 1990, the value of the Kuwaiti dinar dropped to about 5 cents. It dropped from over $3 to 5 cents when Iraq invaded Kuwait in August of 1990. In other words, it took 20 Kuwaiti dinars to buy $1. In February of 1991, Iraq was expelled from Kuwait. And a month later, the banks revalued their currency to $3.47, the highest valued currency in the world. When this occurred, the New York Times reported the event on March 25th, 1991. One of our Soul Family members who was watching me talk a little bit about this yesterday said that was during Ramadan. So this person says it's possible that the Iraqi dinar could also revalue during Ramadan, which is coming up, I believe he said around March this year, 2024. So what was interesting is when you read this article, it tells you that they didn't have any water and little electricity or food. Listen, it says it still has no water and little electricity or food, but Kuwait revived its banking system today, introducing a new currency. Banks reported for the first time since Iraqi occupation forces shut them down in December. Thousands of people lined up to exchange their old Kuwaiti dinars for crisp new ones and to withdraw a limited amount of money. All other old dinars can be exchanged for the new ones on a 1-to-1 rate until May 7th of that year, when the old dinars became invalid. The new official exchange rate at the time of this printing of the article in 1991 was $3.47 American dollars for one Kuwaiti dollar. So I'll put this in the description section for you to read later, but I just wanted to show you that we've had many revaluation of currencies. And one of the most recent ones was when the Kuwaiti dinar revalued in 1991, and many people became millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires even. But it used to be that it was only people high at the top in the military, people, again, who were prelates and financiers of banks, CEOs, philanthropists, billionaires, who else? Presidents all over the world. Those are the people who knew and understood and overstood a revaluation of currencies and how to become wealthy overnight just by purchasing these currencies when they were significantly devalued through war. Now the Iraqi dinar is very low. You probably can get like $1 million for $1,000 or $1,100. The dong, you can get the Vietnamese dong, you could purchase right now $70 for $68 to $75 for $1 million. The Zims are very inexpensive. The Zim bond notes, and you want to get, if you are into the Zim or Zimbabwe, you want to invest in that country. Notice at the top of their bond, it says at the top left corner, it says, this is a promise to pay the holder upon this is a promise to pay the bearer upon demand. You want the 2008, 2009 AA or AB series. So those are very inexpensive, as well as some of the other currencies that people are buying and hodling or holding on for dear life. So the Kuwaiti dinar was one that a lot of people did not know about, but it did revalue in 1991. It revalued in the dark. They had little electricity and no water, but yet people were going to the banks. So this leads us to believe that it's possible that we will have a black swan event that will either lead into the revaluation of currencies and exchanging of currencies, or this financial collapse. It will be the black swan event. Either way, we know that we have to have a revaluation of currencies and a global currency reset in a time where you and I will be able to take our currencies into these Basel III and Basel IV compliant banks in exchange because we need them and they need us to bolster the health of their bank and to protect them against bankruptcy and losses. Now, I'm going to show you President Trump stating that we have helped Iraq, we have protected Iraq, and we have forced them to pay us for their protection. He also talks about, I think it was South Korea, and how they paid us $500 million to protect them in the war. So bear with me, family. I'm going to bring up that video. And just for your information, you might want to write this down. The critical information. It's a long video where President Trump was actually talking about Soleimani on Fox News. And it was, might have been 2020 or maybe a few years before. The timestamp is 2028. 12:28, the 12-minute mark at 28 seconds, and it goes through the 15-minute mark, something like that. So I'll bring that up, but let me see what you guys are talking about. The Zimbabwean rate may come out at $7. Then it would exchange $7 to one United States Treasury note. That's what our new notes will be called, United States Treasury notes, and no longer USD. So when people think 1-to-1 is not true, Zim 1-to-1, it is actually Zim $1 to one of our United States Treasury notes. Thank you, Dan, for explaining that. I think we won't know exactly until we exchange. What about Thai baht? Any word on that or the yuan? No, I don't have any word on the yuan or the Thai baht, but I do know that some of the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, some of those, that coalition were actually trading using the yuan. I do know that. And I know that China has been mining a lot in Africa for decades. For a reason, they've been mining gold. So I'm sure that their yuan, but secretively, is very valuable now. Should you get yuan? I'm not sure, but you guys can mention it in the comment section so that all of us can know what's on your mind and what we should do. You have both AA and AB Zim notes. Awesome. Somebody said you might be right. You're talking to Mogul. What did you say? I hope the Zim exchange for over $8, being that Zimbabwe is very rich in resources, and that we've heard is what the Black Panther movie was all about. It's especially the Black Panther movie, the first one. When you look at the deleted scenes, they actually talk about using their resources to liberate the whole planet. And it was a European guy that was laughing and saying, oh my God, Wakanda's a small nation. There's no way you can help save the whole world. And the people of Wakanda were saying, no, you're wrong. We actually do have a lot of resources to save the world and liberate the planet. So that is exactly what the movie Black Panther was about. Thank you. Somebody said, CEO Executive Mogul says, you look so beautiful today. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So let me show you all. What about humanitarian projects? In my opinion, it's a very good idea to have the humanitarian project, because you and I will not only help the banks protect themselves against losses, but you and I will be able to help people all over the world that have suffered, with hunger, homelessness, drugs, and all of these issues. But do you have to have a humanitarian project in order to redeem your Zim bomb or to exchange currencies? This is just Dr. Kia Pruitt speaking. I don't believe so. Some people say you do have to have one. I think people are confusing the exchange of these currencies with the global humanitarian efforts that were discussed in the 1980s and the 1990s. There are some people in the current foreign currency community who applied to participate in humanitarian projects. So what happened is in the late 80s and the 90s, there were people high up in the military and in a part of the government that tapped on the shoulders of certain churches and certain people, certain philanthropic organizations, and let them know that when the time comes that the republic will be restored and the gold standard will be implemented, then there will be trillions of dollars ejected back into the economy. They were talking about this in the 80s and 90s. President Trump even said this in the 2000s when he was running. He said there's going to be trillions of dollars ejected into the economy. Well, these people who got this information that there would be trillions of dollars ejected into the economy once the republic is restored and we return to constitutional law, common law, and the gold standard, they were told that they could create humanitarian projects to help their communities, their countries, their cities, and the world. And so what these people did, they applied for participation in these humanitarian projects, and they had to pass like certain clearances. They had to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Researched and evaluated, their mentals. They had to pass all type of security clearances. That's what I'm trying to say. And once they passed those security clearances and in their application process, they also had to provide a plan for what their humanitarian project will look like. Then those plans had to be approved. Now, most recently, we had Gold Star Mother Susan Price on our show to talk about how her humanitarian projects were actually approved by Ben Carson, who was actually over housing and urban development under the Trump administration. Why was her plan approved? Because she did all the work. She passed the security clearance. She applied. She went through certain classes to make sure her humanitarian project met up to the standards. And Dr. Ben Carson approved her and some of the other projects. Her project was approved through her church. Her church knew about these humanitarian projects because certain people that were in these philanthropic organizations to help people were alerted to this coming event. And these people all the way back, some people say all the way back to the 1970s knew about this. So they were told that they have to create a humanitarian project in order to get this money. Gurus took that information and I say confused it with or mixed it with this information that in order to exchange your currencies right now, you must have a humanitarian plan. I was told, and one of the guys that trained me or taught me about what's going on behind the scenes is somebody who participated or helped with or worked with the farmers. I would say work with the farmers who took the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve to court, to the world courts. When they took them to court, then it was found that the Federal Reserve banking system used unlawful practices in creating loans with high interest rates and forcing the farmers to do certain things. And if they didn't comply with the regulations, they would steal their land. That some of the farmers lost their lives because they didn't want to comply with the banking regulations or the loan regulations, which included sowing Monsanto seeds, feeding cattle, sick foods and stuff like that. So the people who were involved with or knew the farmers that took the United States Incorporated to court, one of them, I should say, said to me that there's a difference between the humanitarian efforts and the global exchange of currencies that we're doing, or the revaluation of currencies. He also was involved in Empress Verdiasi Gaston L. Turner Bay, who is known as the Empress of the Washita people or Ashita people. And those are the autogenous or indigenous people here in America. One particular tribe or a conglomerate of tribes, she calls herself, and they say through her bloodline, she was the Empress of the people who are erroneously classified as Black. Well, we all know now that we're not Black because Black is a legal term, which means you have no standing in law. It means you're a slave. It is not an ethnicity. It's not a nationality. So we're not Black. We're also not African American because we didn't come from African slave ships. Most of us didn't come from Africa. In fact, African American is a terminology that actually is classified or categorized with as produce and meats. So they lied to us and told us we came from African slave ships when in fact we're the autogenous people or indigenous people here in America, which is why in 1990, the United Nations classified so-called African American people as the oldest indigenous people on the planet. Well, the woman who was the steward of what occurred over in the Louisiana theft that people call the Louisiana Purchase, actually took the United States Incorporated to court around the same time that the farmers took them to court. And she took the United States Federal Reserve to court as well. And she said, you stole the land from the autogenous or indigenous people or indigenous people here in America. You lied to them about their identity. You stole their information and their artifacts and put them and hid them in the Smithsonian Institute. You lied about the Louisiana purchase when in fact it was a Louisiana theft. You lied about all these things to our bloodline families or the autogenous indigenous people here in America, and therefore you need to pay us. She took, according to legend, according to stories, and according to the person that I know, these people to court and took the allodial title, or the title that she and her family had, and proof that the United States Incorporated has stolen the land, and won her claim in the amount of $85 quadrillion. And that money has to be paid out. So I know actually a couple of people who participated in that process with her of taking the United States Incorporated to court at the same time that the farmers took them to court. The CMXK, I think, is another claims that went to court. A lot of people took the United States Incorporated to court because that's just a group of bloodline families, which includes the Rothschilds. That's why you need to know that it's very monumental that Lord Jacob Rothschild just died 2 days ago because his empire is ending. She and many people took them to court and they won their claims. So the people that I know that participated in that, they are the ones that explained to me that there was the humanitarian global settlements and humanitarian efforts and projects that came out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that were told you have to have a verifiable, credible humanitarian project in order to receive the trillions of dollars that would be ejected into the economy once we return to the gold standard and our republic is being restored. So what I would say to you, and I know this is a long way of answering the question, Sister Joanna, it is a good idea to have a humanitarian project. I definitely have some. I think it would be very generous of us and kind of us to help humanity. So yes, we should do it. Do you have to have one in order to exchange your currencies or redeem your dim bomb? I've been told no. So, but many people say you do. So I say better safe than sorry, right? Keep checking in, family, asking your questions. Dr. Black, only a country can change zero on a currency, not on a bond. I think you guys might be talking to each other. Your project is doing God's work. Amen. Yes. Thank you, CEO Exec Mogul. Empress Verdi Asi Gaston L. Turner Bay, also known as Empress Verdi Asi Gaston L. Tunica Bay, won quadrillions, $85 quadrillion in her claim against the United States Incorporated. So for those of you who, need just a little brush up, or don't mind me reiterating this, the United States Incorporated was a group of bloodline families, including the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, which got together and usurped authority from the people who were running our lawful government, the Republic. They usurped authority. They created their own government. They created their own constitution. Their government was called the United States Incorporated. It's just a corporation that was incorporated in 1871 in Delaware as a nonprofit religious organization. Yes, religious because it's Catholic. Nonprofit religious organization in Delaware. Incorporated 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization. So those bloodline families control the banking system. They control the government. They created their constitution, and their constitution is called the Constitution of the United States, Inc., or United States Incorporated. The benevolent or good constitution, the constitution of we, the people, that is a part of our republic, is the Constitution for the Republic of America, for good and benevolent, of bad, associated with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the United States Incorporated, that was incorporated in Delaware in 1871. So two different things, two different entities. And I'm not sure why I went out on that rant. So while you're checking in and you're commenting, let me show you what President Trump said in a Fox News interview about Soleimani. So if you want to look at it, Look it up on YouTube. It says Trump reveals new details on imminent threat for Soleimani. I'm going to show you this. And what I did is I started at 12:28, and we'll go to the end, which is just a little bit over 15 minutes. But I may take breaks in between just to show you how legitimate holding the Iraqi dinar is. President Trump will let you know we have certain people's currencies right now in our banks.
The Iraqi Prime Minister has notified Mike Pompeo about potential plans, drawing up plans for U.S. troop withdrawal from Iraq, period. You ran on pulling out of the Middle East. Why not use this opportunity to say, we're done?
I'm okay with it. By the way,
you're okay with removing our troops from Iraq?
That's what they say publicly. They don't say that privately. Because if we leave, that means they're not going to be able to handle it. Why not leave? I'm not so bad with it. You know, when I heard that, I said, I have it down to 5,000 troops. We had many, many troops there in Iraq. And we're there only in a training. We train them. But if they'd want us to leave, but they speak different publicly than they do privately.
But aren't we?
Isn't that interesting? He said they speak differently publicly than they do privately. There's always two different things going on. Something that's released publicly that may or may not be true, usually is misinformation and it's misguiding or misleading. And then they have these conversations privately, and President Trump will reveal some of the things that's been told privately or shared privately.
Sending more troops to the region as we speak?
We're sending more to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is paying us for it. You know, we're doing something that nobody's ever done. I said to Saudi Arabia, we have a very good relationship with Saudi Arabia. I said, listen, you're a very rich country. You want more troops? I'm going to send them to you, but you've got to pay us. They're paying us. They've already deposited $1 billion in the bank.
He said they're paying us. That's right. President Trump believes in receiving money for services rendered. So he said they're paying us.
We are going to help them, but these rich countries have to pay for it. South Korea gave us $500 million. They never gave us it. They gave us $500 million.
I believe he was saying Saudi Arabia is the country that gave us $1 billion. And now he's saying South Korea paid us $500 million.
I said, you got to help us along. We have 32,000 soldiers in South Korea protecting you from North Korea. You've got to pay. And they gave us $500 million. I mean, you sort of have breaking news because nobody wants to report that stuff. I'm not sure anybody knows it. I might be sort of saying it. You have some, I mean, it's good stuff. But they're a wealthy country. They build all your television sets. They took that away from us. They build the ships. They build a lot of things. I said, look, we're protecting you. You got to pay. They paid us $500 million. They're going to pay us a lot more.
So he's saying that we protected South Korea from North Korea. And they, who were making our televisions and some of our other things, took it away. And he said, oh, no, we've protected you. You're going to pay us. They paid us $500 million and they're going to pay us more. Gotta love number 45. He's about his money and he's about taking care of America.
I think that Iraq should repay the American taxpayer for these bases, for what we've done there.
You heard that from me,
yeah,
okay?
I know, will we?
I said we built one of the world's most expensive airport facilities anywhere in the world. I mean, I wish we had it in New York. I wish we had it in Washington. We built runways that are 15,000 feet long. At LaGuardia, they're 7,000 feet long. In fact, I think they're 20,000 feet long over there, and deep, thick concrete and steel. Nobody ever built runways like this. Okay, it was way overbuilt, but that's okay. But we have billions of dollars into that. I said, if we leave, you got to pay us. If we leave, you have to pay us for embassies. You have to pay us for the money we put in.
Did you hear what he said? He said, we built up airports and runways in Iraq that are better than what we have in America in New York. He said, you're going to pay us for that.
How are you going to collect?
Well,
how are you going to collect? Listen to this.
We have a lot of their money right now. We have a lot of their money. We have $35 billion of their money right now sitting in an account. And I think they'll agree to pay. Otherwise, we'll stay there.
$35 billion. We have $35 billion of their money, of Iraq's money in our accounts right now. $35 billion of Iraqi dinar. So for me, that's exciting and that's encouraging, because that lets me know that America now is holding IQD or Iraqi dinar. So if America, if we have it in our banks right now, then that lets me know that this whole revaluation of currencies and holding currencies is real. And this is why we just made the announcement, and some of you have already heard this, on February 20th, banks are preparing for these exchanges to receive our currencies, to support them and to protect them from financial losses and bankruptcies. Let's see. Good afternoon to you too. Let me see what some of you are saying before we move on. So I just wanted to show you that so that you can see that this is a real event. It has occurred before, the exchange of currencies, and banks are preparing for it now. One of the last things I want to show you is, for the first time in 20 years, Iraq participated in the ministerial conference of the World Trade Organization. So Iraq is preparing to, or they already, participated in the ministerial conference of the World Trade Organization. Let me show you this article. Here's the article. For the first time in 20 years, Iraq participates in the ministerial conference of the World Trade Organization. What are they preparing for? Now they're participating in the WTO. On Sunday, the Ministry of Commerce participated for the first time since 2004 in the ministerial conference of the World Trade Organization, which is being held in the capital of Abu Dhabi. Minister Athlir Gurari said in his speech during his participation in the preparatory meeting of Arab trade and economic ministers within the Arab group for the 13th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. See that number 13, very important. He said, Iraq is participating for the first time since 2004 in the Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization, which is held in the capital, Abu Dhabi, pointing to the completion of the requirement for Iraq's accession to the organization, which is the completion of the files of trade in goods and trades and services within the timetable for joining the global multilateral trading system. So they're now a part of the global multilateral trading system, which lets me know that we are so very close to Iraq trading, or the Iraqi dinar trading on the Forex. We are so close to having all the world currencies to participate in global trade, whereby after the global currency reset, all of these currencies will be one-to-one in parity with each other. The minister pointed to the desire and seriousness of the Iraqi government to establish balanced economic relations with all countries of the world at various levels and fields by improving the business and investment environment and making real reforms in law and legislation. So by participating, they're saying that they're serious about the Iraqi government's involvement in global trade, and in improving the business and investment environment and making real reforms in law and legislation. He thanked the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for supporting the process of Iraq's accession to the international organization through the visit of its permanent ambassador to the organization and his chairmanship of the working group of Iraq's accession. Regarding interest trade and increasing trade exchange between Arab countries, Minister Gurari noted Iraq's keenness on the importance of the presence of Arab countries in Iraq to restore its effective role in economic organizations. So let me restate that. Regarding intra-trade and increasing trade exchange between Arab countries, the minister noted that Iraq's keenness on the importance of the presence of Arab countries in Iraq to restore its effective role in economic organizations. So they're restoring their role in committing or doing trade and working with one another in the Arab region of the world. So that's good news as well, because it shows us how stable Iraq has become now that the prime minister has revalued his currency. And he said that at the end, I think it was November 2022, he stated that he was working with other countries to revalue. Wait a minute, let me see how he said. No, he said he's working with other countries to return his stolen money, and he's working with the Central Bank of Iraq to revalue the IQD, or the Iraqi dinar, against the United States dollar. He promised that he would do that. Then he came back later, a few months after that. He made an announcement November 2022. So early in 2023, he forbade any of his people in Iraq he forbade them from trading with the United States dollar. He told them they were not to purchase the USD on the black market. He made them swear and take blood oaths, and he told them to trust in their own currency and no longer use the United States dollar. So al-Sudani, who is the prime minister of Iraq, is very, very keen on making sure his country is stable, his dinar has been revalued, and making sure he's trading with other nations in the Arab region, and he's making sure he's compliant with trading with people all over the world, which is why he's participating in the World Trade Organization. So that's what I wanted to tell you today, that for those of you who are involved in this community, to stay encouraged, because a lot is going on. Now, I'm not sure what type of black swan event we could have that will lead to us going to the banks. Some people say we will have a black swan event that will lead to the destruction of the collapse of the financial system. And then some people say the destruction of the financial system is the black swan event. Either way you put it, something is brewing in the background. We know that all of these countries, all exporting nations, have joined BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa coalition. They stopped trading with the dollar, and they've agreed to now use gold for trade. They've also agreed to use their own individual countries' currencies for trade. So all of the countries now are on the same page. America is now on the same page, which is why 25 states, according to records and research, 25 states in America applied to join BRICS. We know that Texas did, but we've heard that 25 states here in America applied to join BRICS. And that would make sense, because under the Republic, each state is actually a country. Each state operates as a country. Florida is a country. Texas is a country. Iowa is a country. All these states are operated as their own country, have their own flag, their own legislation, their own governors, and the governor operated as a president of the country or of that particular state. So it makes sense that states would apply to join BRICS. But they didn't even have to do that, because 43 states already passed legislation. Let me see if I can bring that up for you, to reclaim silver and gold as money. This article that I'm going to show you says that Mississippi was the 43rd state, but you can't find an article that says altogether that 43 states reclaim silver and gold as money. Mississippi became the 43rd state to end sales tax on gold and silver. By removing the sales tax from gold and silver, they are proclaiming silver and gold as money, because you cannot lawfully tax money. So that's one article there. And then I'm going to show you another article just to show you the sovereignty of the states and how states are operating as countries. States reclaim. Let me see if I can find this for you. There is one article that just outright says 43 states, but Mississippi was the 43rd state. And then you'll see, and I've been reporting this for the last couple of years about states reclaiming silver and gold as money. Here is the one article that says 42 states have removed taxes from the purchase of gold and silver. And when you read further down into the article, it tells you that removing taxes from the sales of precious metals is a disclosure, an announcement that they are moving towards reclaiming silver and gold as money. What else? Let's see. Keep checking in, family. Let me show you what else. Speaking of Texas, I said Texas applied to join BRICS, or the Brazil, Russia, India, China coalition. Somebody sent me something to let me know that something very weird is going on in Texas. I think there was an explosion of some sort at a nuclear plant. Let me see where that is. I don't know why they're always picking on Texas. I don't even know if this was something that was planned, this explosion, if it was an accident or what's going on, but something's always going on in Texas. It just makes me feel like the powers that be, or certain entities do not like for states to proclaim their sovereignty. One of the things that happened a while ago was, I believe they sent a hurricane and a storm to Texas. I want to say it was about three or 4 years ago. They did it most recently, and they did it several years ago when Texas had asked to have their gold repatriated back to them. But that was before 45 was the president. And before most people even knew that there would be a restoration of our republic and a return to the gold standard. Texas had been saying they were going to secede from the Union, and they demanded their gold to be returned back to them. And then all of a sudden they had this great big old storm out of nowhere, a hailstorm. So Texas is a sovereign state. They're ahead of the game when it comes to asserting their sovereignty and speaking their opinion against the deep state. But most recently, this happened in Texas, where a nuclear weapon factory forced to evacuate as Texas wildfires threatens the plant. Wildfires sweeping across Texas briefly forced the evacuation of America's main nuclear weapons facility as strong winds, dry grass, and unseasonably warm temperatures continue to feed the blaze. Pantex plant, the main facility that assembles and disassembles America's nuclear arsenal, shut down its operation on last night, as the windy Deuce fire roared towards the Potter County location. We've evacuated our personnel, non-essential personnel, from the site, just in an abundance of caution, Pendergrass said, a spokesman who's for the National Nuclear Security Administration's production office at Pantex said during a news conference on Tuesday night. But we do have a well-equipped fire department that has trained for these scenarios, that is on site and watching and ready should any kind of real emergency arise on the plant site. Well, I brought this article up for two reasons: to show you, one, to show you how when states operate in their sovereignty, the deep state, I will just say weird things happen. It could be the deep state, it could be minions, it could just be a coincidence. When you operate in your sovereignty, when you say, I don't want to participate, I'm going to join the BRICS coalition. Texas Governor Abbott is protecting his borders. He deployed the National Guard to protect his borders. Then number 46 said that he was going to federalize the National Guard, which meant that now the National Guard would work for the federal government and he would have control over them. And then the Attorney General of that area of Texas responded by saying that number 46 was not allowed to come into his state. That is very huge for a attorney general and a governor to speak out against a president, a sitting president or resident of the United States Incorporated. This shows you that NESARA and GESARA are real. When a governor can tell the president, you are not coming into my country, and the attorney general says you're not coming to my country, and if you do, you're going to face some harsh backlash, that's letting me know that countries are now operating in their sovereignty. So Governor Abbott said, it doesn't matter if you try to federalize the National Guard, I'm going to deploy more National Guard to protect my borders. And then he reached out to President Trump, and President Trump called on all states, but particularly all Republican-led states, to send National Guard to protect the border of Texas. And that led to 25 Republican-led states sending their National Guard to protect the border of Texas. So this is how I know that NESARA and GESARA have been enacted, because National Guard have been deployed not only in Texas, but all over the country. all over the country, you have troops on the ground that are there to protect us, because there most likely will be a black swan event. Usually when you turn over the economic system, they do something to have some type of black swan event or monumental event to cause people to sometimes to be on curfew and have to go inside the house. But more importantly, they cause a black swan event to totally decimate and destroy the financial system. Because again, at the end of every empire, they print as much money or fiat as they can. They rack up the debt, they rack up the credit, and they use some of that to buy resources for themselves. And then they crash that system and then move back towards a sound monetary system. It's called the crack up boom. So what should we anticipate? We probably should anticipate a stock market collapse, a housing market collapse, a financial collapse. Why? Because the United States dollar has lost at least 98.2% of its purchasing power since we came off the gold standard in 1971. Additionally, with Project Sandman or Operation Sandman, which was an agreement between 209 nations, what they did was secretly drop the United States dollar for trade and went back to their own country's currency, their own sovereign currency, backed by gold and silver, and went back to using silver and gold for trade. So again, Project Sandman or Operation Sandman is a secret agreement between 209 nations that when triggered, they would drop the United States dollar and start using gold for trade. The trigger was Vladimir Putin. When Vladimir Putin, the leader of leader of Russia, went to Ukraine to clean out the deep underground military bases and to uncover all the things that 46 was doing. 46, the president or resident, put sanctions on Vladimir Putin. But that was the trigger. Remember, when triggered, this 209 agreement, country agreement was when triggered, we will drop the dollar. So Putin knew that when he went to clean out what was going on and uncover what was going on in Ukraine, that 46 would put sanctions on him. So his response, Putin's response to 46 was to drop the United States dollar. He said, you can sanction me all you want. I have my own military. I have my own currency, and my currency is backed by gold. So he stopped trading with the United States dollar, speaking of Vladimir Putin in the country of Russia, and he started trading with his own currency. Which is the Russian ruble, which is why the Russian ruble was the strongest performing currency. I'm trying to find an article for you. Russian ruble was the strongest performing currency in 2022. Here we go. I just want to show it to you so I can back up my statements with articles or citations, references, and resources. Here you go. Russian ruble is the world's top performing currency against the dollar in recent weeks. This was actually published in 2023. The ruble has jumped more than 10% since hitting a trough of around 100 against the greenback early last month. Still, the ruble is down 17% against the dollar year to year as Russia's economy battles with problems. But let me see the one. Here it is. This was in 2022. The Russian ruble was the strongest performing currency. But did I bring it up? Hold on. In 2022. I didn't mean to click that off for you. Russian ruble is the strongest currency in the world this year. This was in June 28, 2022. Even as Russia marks a historic default in its debt, the nation's currency is gaining strength. The ruble hit a new high against the dollar this week, continuing streak as the best performing currency in the world this year. That was in 2022. So again, Project Sandman is a secret agreement between 209 nations that when triggered, they would drop the United States dollar and use gold for trade. That trigger was Vladimir Putin. He stopped trading with the dollar. He started trading with his own currency, which he backed by gold and other resources. And then he led the BRICS Union or BRICS coalition to do the same. Remember, Russia is in BRICS. So Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia, led Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS, to drop the United States dollar. We've been reporting on that. I've been reporting that on my channel for the last 2 years before it made mainstream media, mainstream news, that BRICS was coalescing against the West. Then we brought the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company, Andy Schectman, to reiterate and restate that, yes, this was a real thing, that countries are coalescing against the West. So Vladimir Putin inspired the BRICS nations to stop trading with the United States dollar. Then Saudi Arabia joined, which was very monumental, because what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency, and I learned this from Andy Schectman, what made the dollar the world reserve currency was our agreement with Saudi Arabia that they would give us oil and we would protect the Saudi empire in exchange for that. And then we would force all nations to trade using the United States dollar. And if they didn't, we'll put sanctions on them and we'll go into their countries and decimate their economy through war, decimate their currency through war. So that is what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency. That what gave the United States economic hegemony, economic power all over the world. So when Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, and then BRICS became known as Sal BRICS, that was the key. That should have sent shockwaves into the world to let everybody know that the United States dollar was done. Because if what gave us financial and economic hegemony was our agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect their kingdom and their empire in exchange for their oil and force all nations to trade using our dollar, if now Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, that means they were dropping the dollar. That means they're now a part of the BRICS coalition. They actually changed the name to Sal BRICS. That means that now there's no more United States dollar having hegemony. So whereas before the United States dollar had lost 98.2% of its purchasing power before that even happened, can you imagine how much of its purchasing power the United States dollar has remaining since Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, and then all the exporting nations joined BRICS, and BRICS became known then as BRICS Plus. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa formed a coalition to trade amongst one another and secretively to help take down the deep state, the United States Incorporated, and the Federal Reserve banking system by coalescing against those entities and trade with gold, and by using gold and the resources that each country have to back their currencies, to strengthen their currencies and reestablish themselves as sovereign nations, meaning they have rule, reign, and control over their own currency, their own government, their own money, their own everything, their own education system, everything. That's what sovereign means. Sov means over. When you look at the etymology of the word, reign means rule and control. Now countries have rule, reign, and control over themselves. Now you and I have rule, reign, and control over our lives and our finances. So again, Project Sandman was a secret agreement between 209 countries that, when triggered, they'll stop trading with the United States dollar and start using gold for trade. Well, James Rickards, or Jim Rickards as people know him by now, an economist, said when that happens, you may experience an ICE 9 scenario. An ICE 9 scenario means that everything will freeze. Once all these countries stop trading with the United States dollar, the dollar will plunge to near zero overnight, and all dollar-denominated assets will plunge to near zero overnight. That's why Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, has stated, you may go to sleep on a Sunday night and wake up Monday morning to a whole new reality, because the financial system is changing, and it's changing that quickly. So the dollar and all the dollar-denominated assets will plunge to zero or near zero overnight. So we should brace ourselves for a housing market collapse, a stock market collapse, a collapse of everything that's tied to the United States dollar. But be encouraged, because in order to move to a new system or return to the gold back system, you have to totally destroy the old financial system, which is probably why they announced that Lord Jacob Rothschild, one of the Rothschild family members, passed away Monday, 2 days ago. Now, people have said, yeah, but Kia, there are many other Rothschilds living. I agree. There probably are many Rothschilds living, but remember, according to Executive Order 138/18, any entities, people, or organizations that participated in crimes against humanity and nefarious activities as it relates to humanity, listen to that word, and our children, which is still humanity, they will have their assets frozen and they will be judged at Guantanamo Bay. Crimes against humanity. I want you to hear that word. Crimes against humanity. If you've seen my podcast with Dr. Tony Vortex from the Meta Center, he always says this is the world of the human. Now, I know people say human has a bad name, but let's talk about, or it means something bad, but let's talk about how we know it, like human beings, what we know, living, breathing, flesh and blood. Humanity, okay. He says this is the year of the human, meaning that in this new era, in this new dispensation, this is about us. This is about God's creation versus the draconian, reptilian, whatever you want to call them, non-human and non-human hybrids that have taken over our economy and our republics and countries worldwide and enslaved us, so-called humanity. This is the era and dispensation of the humans. This is why Executive Order 138/18, signed by President Donald Trump, stated that any crimes against humanity will be judged very harshly. Their assets will be frozen and they will be judged at Guantanamo Bay. This is also why Lord Jacob Rothschild died at 87. These people, elite people, are into numerology. 8 plus 7 equals 15. 1 plus 5 equals 6. 6 is the number for humanity. 6 looks like a pregnant woman. 6 is the number for mankind, man, humanity, us. So the elites are talking to each other, letting each other know that the era of the draconians, the nefarious entities that enslave the planet is over. This is the time of humanity, of us. This is also why an article came out that King Charles only has 6 months to live. Okay, when you understand and understand how the elites operate, and I only understand a little bit or understand a little bit, and you understand a little bit about gematria and about numerology and astrology, then you can kind of put together the pieces of the puzzle as it relates to what the elites are doing and what they are saying. Let me bring up the article. King Charles allegedly given 6 months to live amid pancreatic cancer battle. So this was published February 17th. That when you read this article, it says he has pancreatic cancer, that it leads to a quick demise, that he only has 6 months to live. And there are other articles out there. And that this comes as a shocking surprise as people were really excited about him making new laws and doing things for his nation. But the underlying message here is that he's about to die. So that's why I say draconian rule is over. And this is the time for us to rule and have sovereignty. Again, he has 6 months to live. And I'm sure you all saw that Lord Rothschild died at 87. And that number leads us to 6. 8 plus 7 is 15. 1 plus 5, you add the 1 and the 5 together, that equals 6. What is 6 in gematria? Multiplicity in 3 dimensions. Okay, let's see. Multiplicity in 3 dimensions. What is the Hebrew character for 6? The 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Vav, and it's a symbol of wholeness. So when you look at numerology, some charts would say, or some numerologists would say 6 represents humanity. Some will say wholeness. Some will say family, unity, and community. So it makes sense that the Hebrew letter Vav is a symbol of wholeness. The numeric value of 6 is intended to present 6 vantage points: up, down, left, right, front, and back. The 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Vav and is a symbol of wholeness. So when I heard that Lord Rothschild died at 87, which is pretty young for a Rothschild, they usually die in their hundreds, I knew that there was a message encoded in that. And I don't even know the overall message, but I know the 6 is the number of the vibration of family, humanity, wholeness, and high vibrations. Not yet, babies. So it also makes sense that King Charles only has 6 months to live. King Charles allegedly was involved in child hunting parties. He and the queen and some of the people in his court and his bloodline. What they would do is they would dress up in these heinous outfits. They would then after they rounded up children, they dress up in his outfits and release them into the woods and the wilderness, and then they would chase them and hunt them down and do some very evil things to the children once they caught them. This would cause the children to be very afraid, to release adrenaline, and when they release this adrenaline, then these beings can extract something from the blood that starts with an A and ends in chrome, and they would absorb it, ingest it, because that allegedly operates from the blood of these children that release a lot of adrenaline from fear that will it feeds these entities and it makes them younger. It gives them energy as well as give them increase their psychedelic abilities. So this is why I don't believe these entities are fully human. They're either human hybrids or they're non-human. But this is the type of things they would do. And Queen Elizabeth and her whole family bloodline in her court, where they were actually brought up on charges for participating in child hunting parties as it relates to Canadian children, Indigenous Canadian children. And this happened at a school. So they did, this was allegedly something that they participated in often. But in one particular case, when there was a school, a private school of Indigenous Canadian children, the Queen met with them, and she and her family and her court allegedly participated in these child hunting parties. They hunted the children, hurt them, fed themselves off of those children, and one child lived. So the one child that lived was supposed to testify against the Queen, but on the day that he was supposed to testify, he came up missing. So the Queen was supposed to come to court, but there were no more witnesses. So what they tried to do was they tried to charge her family for the crimes that the Queen had done, because they iterated that the family most likely participated in those activities. So King Charles, so-called King Charles, has to go. His whole bloodline family is nefarious. They've done some horrible things to children. But again, they've committed crimes against humanity, crimes against wholeness of the planet, crimes against high vibrations, crimes against the family, the tribe, we the people, crimes against our sovereignty. So this is why they have to be ejected from the planet. Let me see if I can find something else about the number 6. Oh, I don't have the article up here, but so for some of you that know about the number 6, is that when they talk about 666, they have taught us that 666 is the number of the adversary, the number of the devil, the number of evil. But 666 is truly about, from a metaphysical standpoint, and maybe even beyond metaphysical standpoint, it's about 6 proton, 6 neutron, 6 electron, which is carbon. Everything that's living on Earth has carbon. Some people even say carbon is related to melanated beings that have carbon. I think everybody has carbon, but particularly these bloodline families. And, even the Pope said this, that they were after all humans, but their number one target was the heavily melanated beings, the ones with the most carbon. Those are the ones that they really sought after. That's why they went after indigenous children, the altigenous children, the so-called blacks and the dark people on the planet. It's why they went in Haiti and destroyed Haiti through floods and through a lot of nefarious things that the Clinton family and others did. That's why they go so hard against the Black community in America and put drugs in the communities, guns in the communities, gangs in the communities, all type of violence in the communities, abortion clinic in the communities. They want everybody, but their first target was the heavily carbonated people, because these entities favor that for their survival. They eat it and they drink it. So when they do things to the people, we the people, and to our children, they needed that A word. That A starts with A and N in Chrome for their survival. And whenever you're traumatized or you're depressed or you're stressed out or you have anxiety, you could be worried about your bills. You could be worried about the violence that's on the movies and the things that go on in the world. you emit a psychic energy called loosh, Loosh. These non-human beings, these bloodline families that enslaved the whole planet, including the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, et al., they absorb that energy. They eat it and they absorb it. It makes them stronger. It makes them grow. It makes them have all type of so-called powers. So they eat the achrome word. They get the carbon and the melanin from the organs, the liver, the heart, and all of the organs. They absorb your energy when you are traumatized or you're just going through hardships, which is why they did so much to us to keep us psychically ill and mentally ill. Now, what their intent to do was to go after the heavily carbonated beings, the dark people, the indigenous, autogenous people first, and to eradicate them first and absorb all their energy to destroy them and their tribes and their bloodline and their families all over the world. And then they would go after all the other family members after they had totally decimated the original people, the people with the most carbon, with the most melanin, because we all, as you all know, if you study science, come from one source. Once they got the so-called blacks or the carbonated beings and enslaved them and destroyed them, then they will come after the rest of our soul family. So that's what the 666 really is about. It's about carbon. It's about destroying life. It's about destroying everything that has life in it, whether it be people, trees, animals, the planet. So 666, proton, electrons, neutrons. That's what it is. It's not the number of the devil. They lied to us. Everything they taught us is in reverse. So what are they telling us now? This is the era of the humans. Rothschild died at 87. Again, that's the number 6. King Charles has 6 months to live. And then somebody told me, they said, Key, I want you to look at how uranium closed yesterday. And he said, you think they're trying to send us a message? I'm going to show you this, how they keep bringing up the number 6. And this is on Twitter. Let's see if it's here. Yep. This is Trade Girl Q. Now, according to her, she believes that World War III is about to begin. I say World War III has already ensued. Like, we've been in World War III. World War III was the whole planet being enslaved, and us, the benevolent beings, fighting against, and the white hats of the military fighting against the Rothschild bloodline and all these bloodline families that enslaved the planet. So I believe it's already here. And I agree with her that you're watching a movie, but everybody's going to be safe. Evacuations are underway. Like, people are evacuating from Texas right now. She thinks that it could be a black swan event. People will evacuate from these cities and states where they may stage a black swan event. But look at what my friend sent me. Uranium closed at 6.66 yesterday. And Energy Fuels, I don't know what this is, Amex closed, or maybe it's the same thing, 6.66. Why do they keep bringing up the number 6? What is it that they are telling us? My question is, what do you think it is? In my opinion, they're letting us know that these non-carbonated beings, these non-human beings, are being destroyed, that we're about to see a market collapse. So a stock market collapse, a dollar collapse, what else? A regime collapse, a changing of the guard. And we're going into a whole new reality. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Any thoughts on the dong rates? No, but I heard they're going to be astronomical. That's all I know. I don't know what they're going to be. And let's see what else. Somebody says, thank you for great answers. If you're talking to me, you're welcome. It's my great pleasure. Oh, people are saying what they want to do when they create their humanitarian projects. So yes, these are very, very monumental occurrences and incidents that we need to take note of, because we're all being liberated. We'll soon have our freedom, prosperity, and sovereignty restored to us. We're at the precipice. We are there at the apex of this new reality of being prosperous human beings or prosperous sovereign entities. Some people don't like the word humans, but prosperous beings. We're right there. Let me see. Any other questions, family? Trump has a list of 1,200 projects you can give money to, all to help with those projects. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Dr. Gerald Jekyll, thank you for sending me here. Great info, great minds. Oh, yes, we love that. Can you post a list, Dan? They want a list of Trump's projects. Or where can they find it? Dan says you will be given that list when you exchange. Thank you, Dan. A few countries have our taxpayers' money and we have no money to live on. I agree. Dr. Bob, hi, Dr. Bob Black says cash your NIQD at a bank. Wells Fargo is giving $28.50 per NIQD if you have a project. Ask for the contract rate. Thank you. So to everybody, if you are enjoying this show, then please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you will, and share the information that you see fit with your friends and family members. Canada too is struggling. So we're struggling all over the planet. Actually, thank you, Love BN Nubian. She says, hit the like button. It helps the channel. People cannot continue to live paycheck to paycheck. I agree, Love BN Nubian. It is becoming very hard for people to even keep a roof over their heads. People have been reporting that the rent is like 3 times higher than it was just a few years ago. Mortgage rates are through the roof. They can't even roof. They can't even afford to buy a home. Groceries cost so much more than they ever have. All of that. Rod Steele can be found on YouTube. Yes, Rod Steele just did an interview with John Dowling recently. Love being Nubian says we are really suffering in the States, but yet money is being given to people who are coming here illegally. I agree. As a matter of fact, there was an article that I read yesterday that said that 46 is responsible for the death of many Americans. And then I read an article that said that Representative Ken Bucks from Colorado is urging Kamala Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment to get rid of or impeach Joseph Biden. And I could see how, I could see why he would do that, because all these illegal aliens that are crossing our borders, they're taking welfare checks. They get welfare checks. They get welfare checks being food stamps, free money, housing, clothes. And it is said that they are given a right to vote. However, we don't think there's going to be an election in 2024 in November. We believe that the end of the system is occurring right now in front of our eyes, and the destruction of the financial system is occurring. So brace yourselves, family, and stay encouraged that things are turning for our good and happening for our good. God is always in control. Okay. And even if there was no such thing as a white hat of the military or Nasara white knights, you have rule, reign, and control of your own life. You and I don't have to continue to be slaves. We can say we're standing up against the deep state. We can actually declare our own sovereignty and walk like sovereign beings. We can grow our own food. We can learn to clean our own water. We can form alliances with other tribes or other family members and create a big, expansive community that helps each other. We can learn how to barter and trade with one another by providing a service for their service. I fix your car in exchange for food. I'll work on your house in exchange for silver. We can learn how to do this now. We don't have to remain slaves. We don't have to wait on a savior. Although the Creator did bring us people to help us, thank God, and entities and people from other places on the planet and in the galaxy, some say, if you believe in the Galactic Federation, to help us out with this war. But you and I have to do our part. We have to stop being complicit with whatever the deep state tells us to do. We need to turn off their harmful music. We need to turn off their harmful messages in the television. We need to educate our own children. We need to plant our own food. We need to take care of our own our family members, our elders. We need to fix our own clothes and our own cars. We don't need these bloodline families to dictate anything to us. And we need to realize that we're sovereign. We don't have to take money from the United States Department of Education. We can follow the lead of Tennessee, which said we'd reject the United States Department of Education's money because we have enough money to fund our own schools. And if we didn't have the money, we would come up with it. So we need to follow the lead of Tennessee. We need to follow the lead of those states, which are countries that passed legislation to reclaim silver and gold as money. We need to follow Governor Abbott and create laws to employ our National Guard. We, the people, have power. We need to start acting like it. We need to go out and get our family members, bring them under one roof, which some people already do, rather than having 5, 6, 7 different households pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month in mortgage. It's just insane how we've allowed them to divide us. So you're paying $2,000 over here, you're paying $3,000 over there, you're paying $5,000 over there. Your bloodline is literally spending $10,000 or more per month to have a roof over their head. That's not including food, clothes, medicines, insurance, cars, education. Why? Why are we allowing this when we can bring our family members, our children, and our elders under one roof? If you can't be under one roof, but you can, you just don't want to be, because a lot of us are selfish and self-centered, and we're more concerned about self than we are the whole of the group. We used to be communal. All of us used to be communal before we allowed these bloodline entities to tell us that we should be egocentric and only be concerned about ourselves. I'm not saying don't be concerned about yourself. I'm saying that the world is huge, but we're all one. The first law of the universe, the first principle of the universe is the law of oneness, that we all came from source. We're all one. We all have source within us, and we all will return to source, no matter what your color of your skin is, your ethnicity, your nationality, your creed, bloodline, religious affiliation, political affiliation. We are all one. How did we allow them to separate us? So get your bloodline family together. Create a mission statement for your family. Create a vision statement. Look out into the future. What do you want for you? What is your projection for the future of your family? That's your vision statement. Write it out. What is your mission? What is your purpose for yourself and your family? Write it out and bring your elders back home. Bring your children back home under one roof and put your money together and your resources together, and then you'll thrive. You can also use your energy to create businesses so that you don't have to work for these corporations. Thank God, the good news is that 569 corporations filed bankruptcy last year, and more filed bankruptcy in 2024, and we just begun. The good news also is that many of those banks that are not compliant crashed. They failed. That's why we had 5 major banks to close in 2023. We had 20,000 bank positions slashed in 2023, and we had 3,000 bank branches to completely close. And there will be more. The universe is conspiring to assist us, not to do the work for us. So this is why the Creator has inspired a white hat in the military and people in power who are benevolent to crash the system, to take down the deep state, to remove the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and bloodline families that have controlled the finances of the world. But we have to do our part. The universe conspires to assist you, not to do the work for you. So when they create laws against you, say, I do not consent. Operate like that, because a lot of things, including income taxes, is voluntary. If we all got together and said, I'm not going to pay this, I'm not going out to work for some of these nefarious bloodline families, if we all were on the same page, they wouldn't be able to enslave us. But it starts with you and me, and one family at a time. Get your family members. Write a mission statement. What is the purpose and mission of this family? What is the purpose and mission for myself and this family? What is the vision? Write it in a statement. What is the trajectory? Do you know that there are bloodline families such as the Japanese that have a mission and vision statement for what their posterity will look like 1,000 years from now? I had a friend who worked for, I think it was it Mitsubishi? I can't remember. It was one of those, I think it was a Japanese company. And he said all the people in higher management had to read books from hundreds and documents from hundreds of years about how to run an operation for thousands of years. And all that was based upon how certain Japanese and Chinese bloodline families create plans for thousands of years. So while we're asking each other, what are you going to do for today? Which is good. What's your 5-year plan? You have people that actually, and families that plan for hundreds and thousands of years. So what is the trajectory? What type of legacy do you want to leave for your family? We're moving into a whole new era. Start using your sovereign power, your will, the power that you have, your God-given power to control your own life, to help your family, to leave a legacy for your family. Create that vision and mission statement for yourself and your family. Bring and pull together your resources and help each other to survive and thrive. Once you do that, you also need to go out and look into your community to see who's growing the food, who's fixing the cars, who's making the clothes, who's good at art, who's good at music, who's good at creating solar panels, who's good at providing a service for your hair, who's good at educating your children, who is good at philosophies, who's good at, perpetuating the laws and the rules of your bloodline family, or the religion, so to speak, of your bloodline or your tribe or your community. And you need to go and support those people, make alliances with those people, and work together to do business with them, not only in your families and in your communities, but at some point you will expand and be able to do trade and provide services with people in other communities. This is why they divided us by race, religion, creed, skin complexion, religious affiliation, political affiliation, because as long as we were divided, they would control all of us. Divide and conquer, right? And we will continue to work like slaves. You have to continue to work to pay rent. You have to continue to work to eat and to do everything you want to do. But I'm imploring you, begging you, and encouraging you, family, to operate in your sovereignty. Go get your family members and strengthen your family unit. Pull your resources together and help each other to survive and thrive. That is how we help the universe to bring in our sovereignty, prosperity, peace, and freedom. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Are there any other questions or comments? Dr. Bob Black says the dong, as it relates to the dong, consider a float of $7. The floor rate will be 71 cents. Thank you, Dr. Bob Blank. He says he's getting $5 per dong. Thank you for sharing all the information. I really appreciate that. Hi, Michael Smith. Blessings back to you as well. I appreciate that. Yes. So I see you talking to each other. I didn't get taxed on silver that I was able to get. That's what Love Be In Nubian says. That's the only thing I'm not being taxed on is precious metals. And having said that, if you are interested in precious metals, you want to go to your local coin shop to see what they have, because there you can take in whatever they have in inventory right away. But if they don't have what you need, then you can call our affiliate, Miles Franklin, at 952-929-7006 and let our brokers know what it is you're interested in, whether it's a gold IRA, whether it's bullion and silver and gold, or constitutional silver. You can also ask questions, because all of our brokers are able to answer your questions about geopolitics, finances, and economics, and they will take your order, process your order. Also, they can help you with the Gold IRA. They can help you with storage and all of that. But make sure you let our brokers know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, so that you can get the best prices in the industry. Let's see. I think that's about it. The resident made a trip to the hospital today. Oh, number 46 made a trip to the hospital. Anybody have updates? Thank you, Jacqueline. And you had some typos. Okay. What you say? You woke up to 61 degrees and now all of a sudden it's 30 degrees. Wow. Where are you? In Ohio. Oh, many homes are damaged from tornadoes in Ohio. Homes damaged in Ohio from tornadoes. People having to be evacuated from towns in Texas due to the nuclear explosion. What else are they doing to try to bring about a black or usher in this Black Swan event? So these Black Swan events will probably or could lead to some type of shutdown. One article I read yesterday said, and you can go to my podcast that I did yesterday, said that there was an alert and announcement that says we might be shut down for 3 days. I'm not sure how many days we could be shut down, but I have heard for many years that we will have an emergency broadcast system announcement or an emergency alert system announcement where the president or the military, because, you know, right now we're operating under military law since the deep state did a coup d'etat and overtook our government. So now the military had to stand in and take over and make Donald Trump the commander in chief. And they had to stand in the stead of a president. Although Donald Trump is still the commander in chief, but they had to stand in and take down those nefarious activities. So allegedly the military, well, we know the military is in charge, but allegedly the National Guard we know they're deployed, but they may exact or enact a curfew while we're indoors, if that happens, for 3 days. But at the same time, you'll have an emergency broadcast system announcement that will come on the television, the computer, and the cell phone to let you know about this war against the deep state and that the republic has been restored along with constitutional law and the gold standard. And they will show some of the arrests of the nefarious entities and people high up, CEOs of banks, world leaders that have done crimes or participated in crimes against humanity. So this revolution will be televised. Now, there was part of the revolution that wasn't televised. So ancestor Jill Herring Scott, we appreciate you saying that the revolution will not be televised, because most of it wasn't, and the mainstream tried to cover it up. That's why whenever number 45 said that the mainstream media was a liar and that they were fake news, they chided him and made fun of him. They tried to take him down on many accounts because they tried to keep the revolution quiet, that Donald Trump was leading the takedown of the deep state. He, Vladimir Putin, and Xi Jinping, as well as some other world leaders. So this part of the revolution will be televised when we have an emergency broadcast system announcement. What looks like Maui? Is it Texas that's looking like Maui? So I'm just trying to get the remaining of your questions. My battery is also going low. Okay, I see you all talking to each other. Keep chatting with each other, family. 666 is melanin. So all the while they were talking in codes. They told you to be afraid of 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, carbon, melanin, when in fact they prefer it. Everybody knows now. It's been actually reported worldwide that these dark entities preferred melanin. They want to eat everybody, but they preferred melanin. Again, that's why they had abortion clinics in the urban neighborhoods. That's why they had child hunting parties amongst indigenous children. That's why allegedly Oprah Winfrey had her school and the girls went missing. That's why we had catastrophe after catastrophe in Haiti. That's why we had the Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. Of course, they were also upset with the Empress there, Empress Birdie Yasti Gosson L. Turner Bay, which became a mayor in Louisiana in one of the towns there. So they were against all of us. Their main target was melanin and carbon because they needed it to eat. Thank you, Don Teasy, for the confirmation. You remember a story where back you think it was a dead female on the ground of Buck's Palace around 7 years ago. Wow. Hi, Aura from New Zealand. It's good to see you. So many of you are here. Thank you for participating in the chat. 666 is not the number of the devil, but the number of a man. The Bible says the number of man. So they have all these sixes and dropping in their comms and in their publications and letting us know, what's going on behind the scenes, really. Thank you so much, Eagle Eye, for letting us know that 6 is the number of a man. This is our time. Real human beings, no matter what your skin complexion, religious affiliation, or political affiliation, nation, ethnicity, this is our time to thrive. And this is why God is allowing prosperity to be ejected into the economy, and why each of us will have thousands and tens of thousands ejected into our quantum accounts every month, coming soon under Nasara, because the Creator wants us to experience not only sovereignty, but prosperity, peace, and abundance. Look at the Monster Energy drink. The symbol is the Hebrew. The symbol in Hebrew is 6. I didn't know that, Dr. Black. Thank you. So many comments. I'm not able to keep up with them. Family, thank you so much. I will do my best. I don't know what I did with my cord, but let's see. The IQD is in the WTO as of today. The World Trade Organization. Awesome. 222 people in the chat. Thank you, family. I appreciate you. Somebody says, speak, Doc. So true. Thank you, love, being Nubian. They want our organs. Yes, that's why they try to get you to donate your organs on your driver's license. They want everybody's organs. They're looking for the carbon and the melanin, no matter what race you are. But the more heavily concentrated your melanin, the more potent it is. The darker the you are, allegedly, the darker you are. I'm just going to say it. And the richer your bloodline is with melanin and carbon. That's what these entities were after. That's what they needed. So 666 was not the sign of evil or the devil. They're the ones that's evil, not us. Greetings to everyone. Kathy says we are also having really weird weather in Ontario, Canada. Wow. Thank you for letting us know that. And thank you for this. What's this? Badboys.us maps state total. Oh, you're showing us something. Let me see if I can go to my Facebook and get that. I'll try to bring that up. Thank you, Rich. You're always giving me good information. Hold on. So you see, he dropped the link in the chat, family. I'm going to pull it up so you'll see it. It's buffering for me right now, Rich. My computer is freezing up, family. Oh. Wow. My computer is freezing. Hold on. That's better. Let's see. Thank you all. So many of you here. I see 241 people. I appreciate that. Oh, it's a federal criminal database, but it's not coming up for me yet. Rich. Badboys.us. It's not coming up for me, but he did drop the link in the chat for you all to look and see. Oh, here it is. Now I'll bring it back up. There it is. Thank you, Rich. Let me see what this is. Top unsealed by the state. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, California. Number 3, Arizona. Number 4, New Mexico. Number 5, Florida. Number 6, New York. Number 7, Ohio. Number 8, North Carolina. Number 9, Missouri. Number 10, Virginia. What are these sealed? Are these sealed documents or sealed arrests, Rich? My computer is giving me a hard time. It keeps freezing on me. Oh, okay. He said he had to open it on a desktop. on your phone? Okay, it keeps freezing on me, Rich. You had to open in desktop with your phone. Okay, I'll do that later on. I love you more, currency provider. Thank you. How would anyone know the rate when we're not exchanging yet? People are so. In my opinion, you are wrong. Some people are guessing, and then some people, I can tell you that, like the gentleman I told you about that worked with Empress Verdiasi L. Turner Bay, who was known as the Empress of the Washita or Ashita tribe, Ashita people in America, who took the United States government to court. He worked with her on that case. He told me that a group of military people, the group of the Grand Army of the Republic, who told them about the removal of the deep state, came to them in the 90s and told them about it, and also told them that they would revalue currencies, actually told them a rate. And the rate that I'm hearing is down like $3. Some people saying $4. Well, before they were saying 15 cents, right? And I was saying, nope, that's not it. Because what he told me was the rate was going to be astronomical. I'll repeat it. I think he said the dinar and dong. Some people said the rate would be like as much as $100. But I don't know if that's over the USD. Okay. No matter what the rate is, it's going to be 1-to-1 with our United States Treasury note, because our new note, the United States note or United States Treasury note, will be backed by gold. So I'll just say that some people are guessing, whether it be educated guesses, or maybe they've heard somebody say it, or maybe, they just leaked information that somebody at a higher level, I'm not going to say at the highest level, leaked to them. But I will tell you, like, as you said, what is it, loan, CAO, most of us are only reporting what we have studied, researched, heard, or learned about. Some things we won't know, like exact rates, exact dates. We won't know. We don't even have high enough clearance to know this type of high level information. So it's just based on research and guesses. Thank you so much for that question. That was a great question. Friends, do your research for an irrevocable trust and revocable trust. Thank you, Holly. You're going to want to make sure you put your assets into a trust that's based on common law, that's not attached to an EIN number. Now we have trusts that are attached to an EIN number, but the EIN number is attached to the IRS, and the IRS has been dismantled. So in this new reality into which we're going, the IRS will cease to exist. So the new trust will be based on common law. So you will have like something like a common law living business irrevocable trust or revocable trust. Again, that's based on the Constitution and or common law. So look into that. They should have people in our new management centers, known as the banks, that will help us with our trust, because they are working for us. So thank you, CEO Exact Mogul. I think this she says, or he, I'm not sure. I think the mogul says, I heard the rate for IQD is 128 and the dong 120. Thank you, because I've been saying for years it's $100 at least, and they were saying no, it's only 15 cents. That's what they were saying in 2018. And I'm like, I heard it was over $100 or more. It's going to be exorbitant if you own the dinar and the dong. I can't say for sure, but I can tell you what I heard. A bank can set up a trust for you. A financial advisor can also set up a trust for you, Holly says. Thank you, Holly. I thought the IRS, yes, it was done away with. You're right. You're right. I'm just saying that the trust that most people have now was under the old system. That's why it's attached to an EIN number. It's also the IRS has been defunded and dismantled, which is why, our journalists on the ground reported that the lights were out, because at the headquarters. And that's why the IRS, they actually put out a press release that told millions of Americans last year not to even file it for taxes. They basically told us they were done with, but people do it out of habit and out of fear. And what I told people to do is, if you're not certain if it's true that the articles that they printed says don't file your taxes is real, then write a letter and ask for forgiveness. And the people that did that got it. Just tell them you need for the amount that you owe to be forgiven, or ask for an extension, and just keep extending it until it's widely known that the IRS has been done away with. Because we know that the duties of the IRS and the Federal Reserve were actually put under the United States Treasury Department, because anything dealing with money has to come under the United States Treasury Department, as it relates to our in accordance with our republic and our Constitution. President Trump, by the way, put the duties of the IRS and the Federal Reserve underneath the Treasury Department. And I reported months ago that the Federal Reserve is defunct and has been dissolved. They're insolvent. They don't work anymore. They're done away with. That's why Rothschilds are dying. I think David Rothschild died not too long ago. Lord Jacob Rothschild died. And some people, I listened to Bix Weir, who worked in the financial industry for many years. He has said that they knew that the Rothschild family, basically, number one, they could do whatever they want, but they also are saying that they have not put anybody else in place after Lord Jacob Rothschild. And the reason why they have not is because they've been stopped. They've been preventing from doing so. That whole system has been decimated. This is the changing of a guard. This is the end of the financial system as we know it, the end of the SWIFT system, the ushering in, performed at the Super Bowl, the ushering in of a gold and silver backed quantum financial system. It's over for the old guard. So Rothschild is dead. King Charles is dying. Oh, and Biden, somebody reported, was rushed to the hospital today. It's been widely reported that he's ill. He's very sick. So people know that this is the end of the system by now. And if you don't know, if we didn't know, now we know. So that's what I wanted to report. But, let's do a recap. The banks all over the globe have met. The top banks have met. They met starting in February 20th, on February 20th, 8 days ago, to prepare for the currency exchanges. Let me see how they say exactly. Let me see. I'm going to read it exactly how the article says. Global banks met February the 20th to prepare for Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes, or Tier 2 capital. What is Tier 2 capital? I'm glad you asked, because I looked it up. According to Investopedia and some other sources, Tier 2 capital is currency such as revaluation resources, or some people call them revaluation reserves, as well as some other reserves. Revaluation reserves are your revaluation currencies like your Iraqi dinar, your dong, your zim, your rupiah, your rupee, and other foreign currencies. So banks are preparing for Basel III compliant Tier 2 notes. They're preparing to receive our currencies because our money will strengthen the health of the banks. It will also prevent the banks in case they get in financial trouble. It will protect them against bankruptcy, and it will protect them against any type of losses. It will avert bankruptcy and fortify the bank's resilience against unforeseen economic shock. So the banks are preparing to receive our currencies, meaning they need us. They need your currencies to strengthen the health of the banks. Under Basel III compliances, banks had to acknowledge, number one, gold as a Tier 1 asset. Gold protects the bank against losses and bankruptcy. It is the strongest currency. Really, it is real money. It is the strongest asset, I should say. And also Basel III compliance stated that banks had to recognize Tier 2 assets and be prepared for and receive Tier 2 assets and prepare for those currency exchanges. So if you have those currencies, family, you're in a good place, and one day you will be very wealthy. If you want to stay up on what's going on with the Tier 2 movement as it relates to these banks, follow Ariel, Ariel on Twitter. Stay up with me because I follow him, and I'm going to be doing my research every day. Also in the news, we saw that uranium energy closed at 6.66. There's that number 6 again. Where else have we seen the number 6? We saw that Lord Jacob Rothschild died 2 days ago on Monday at the age of 87. 8 plus 7 equals 15. Break it down. 1 plus 5 equals 6. What is 6? 6 is the number of man, the number of humanity. It looks like a pregnant woman. It represents family, community, wholeness. What else did we see about as it relates to 6? King David King Charles has 6 months to live because he has pancreatic cancer. So all of these things are just comms being dropped to let us know that the old guard has been overtaken by a whole new system. What else have we heard? We heard that Representative Ken Bucks out of Colorado is calling upon Kamala Harris to evoke the 25th Amendment to impeach Biden. Now, we appreciate him for saying that. He is not a proponent of impeachment, by the way, but he's getting tired of Biden. He's seen the reports that James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, put out. You can go to house.oversight.gov and see all the evidence against Biden. Type in house.oversight.gov or go to House Oversight on your in Google. Go to the search engine part of that, the little search icon, type in Biden. You will see all the evidence that James Comer, the chair of the House Oversight Committee and the Oversight Committee, has published and produced as it relates to the Biden crime family being very heavily involved in crimes against humanity. So Representative Ken Buck said it's time for Kamala Harris to impeach him. Now, we happen to know that Kamala Harris has probably already been done away with, but, they have to do this for the masses, because everybody doesn't know this. We also know that Harris is not legitimate. They're saying that she will operate as the president in the stead of 46. But as I presented to you many, many times, many years ago, even before she ran, while she was running, I should say, I presented to you that, and I said it also yesterday, she's not natural born. According to the Constitution, the forefathers who created the Constitution, in order to be a president, you have to be natural born. Natural born means you have to come from that region. It really literally means you have to be Aboriginal, okay? But they expanded the definition of natural born to include being born on that land. You got to know the difference between autogenous and native and indigenous, okay? The autogenous people came from that region. So that's neither here nor there. According to the Constitution, in order to be president, you have to be from that place. You have to be natural born. She was native born. She was born somewhere else, allegedly. And even if she were born in Oakland, California, which is what they say, she is not considered natural born because her bloodline is not from America. Okay, you have to understand etymology and the language of the Constitution. Who do I have to back me up? John Eastman, who was a professor of Chapman University. He is also a constitutional expert, a constitutional law expert. He is a constitutional law professor. He said the same thing. Kamala Harris is not natural born. Ted Cruz was natural born, according to him. He was born and his bloodline was born in the Americas. However, Kamala Harris is not natural born. So 2 stipulations: you must be natural born and subject to the jurisdiction of the state in which you were born. She is not subject to the jurisdiction of California because she's not natural born here. Her parents were not naturalized here. They're not from here. Her parents are from allegedly Jamaica and India. So it's not only about proximity as it relates to whether or not you're able to serve as president. It's also about allegiance. So because she was an anchor baby, her parents were not naturalized here. Her parents are not from here. They are not natural born. Her allegiance is to the countries and the nations of her people. Her allegiance is to Jamaica in India or wherever her people are from, whether they're really Zionists, I don't know. Wherever they're from, that's where her allegiance is to. So again, in order to serve as president, you have to be natural born and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof, subject to the jurisdiction of that bloodline area. She's not legitimate. So I can appreciate Colorado's Representative Ken Bucks for saying that Harris needs to evoke the 25th Amendment in order to get Biden out of here. And if they go that route, I would be excited. But we know he has to go, whether it's that way or whether it's because of the case that the Brunson brothers brought up against Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress. Remember that lawsuit? That case, I'm sorry, that the Brunson brothers brought against the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court refused to hear it, which is a violation of our rights. They have actually committed treason if they know that there's a potential threat to our country, and they would not hear the case, so they can be held on charges of treason. The Brunson brothers, brilliant trumpet players who are more than trumpet players, trust me. They were world renowned, and trust me, they are some people that probably know President Donald Trump. That's why it's trumpet players. All of this is scripted, okay? So they brought up another suit that said that the Supreme Court must hear the case. Then the Attorney General passed a law or some type of, I don't know, a memorandum. And he said in the memorandum that single-handedly Judge Clarence Thomas could make a decision on that case. And if it is found that Biden, Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress committed treason in any way or any crimes against humanity, if they participate in the fraud that occurred in 2020, you know, that words that start with ELECTION, if they participated in that, then all of them must have their credentials stripped, and they may never serve again, and they have to face punishment. And the punishment for treason is execution. I have to be careful. I actually got a strike on my channel a year or two ago for saying that, what the penalty for treason is. So I better be careful. So we have the Brunson case. We have the Attorney General saying that Chief Clarence Thomas or Justice Clarence Thomas by himself can make an announcement about that and can hear that case and judge it. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene bringing up articles of impeachment against Biden. And now we have Representative Ken Bucks saying that Harris needs to evoke the 25th Amendment. And we have all of the proof by the chair of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, providing evidence that 46 participated in treason and nefarious activities as it relates to Ukraine over there in that country that Putin actually uncovered and declared war on. He has evidence that he participated in business deals with the CCP. He has evidence of a check that was written to the CCP. But the good news is that 400 million people defected from the CCP. I reported that 2 years ago. They defected in the summer of 2022, and there was a big celebration. It's called Kwaidong, I think, Q-U-I-D-O-N-G, something like that, or Kwaidong, which was the celebration of, or the freedom and liberation of all of these 400 million people that defected from the CCP. Another note that I want to make is that China's largest real estate company, Evergrande, filed bankruptcy August 2023 here in America because they own land and resources and assets here in America. They filed bankruptcy in August of 2023, and then they were commanded, to liquidate their assets earlier this year in 2024. So the CCP has been done away with. But my point is, Biden has to go. He has to go. Oh, Golden Arrow says, thank you and blessings to you from the farm. You're welcome. It's my great pleasure. So he has to go. He will go, and an announcement will be made about all the stuff that's been going on. Again, some people say it'll be for 3 days. We'll hear the announcement. Some people say it'll be 10 days. We don't know how long it will be, but brace yourselves for the deep state trying to create some type of black swan event. You hear about this unlikely, unseemly weather that's going on in different regions of America and in Canada. You hear about the fires and the nuclear explosion in Texas. No telling what they're going to do. We know that they're going to totally decimate the financial system, that we're going to have a stock market crash, which will lead to a correction later on. You're going to have a housing market correction or a crash first, because everything tied to the dollar has to collapse. But also when Evergrande filed bankruptcy in America and their assets had to be liquidated, you know that's going to lead to a massive housing market collapse which will mean that many of the houses will be dumped on the market. So if you have any cash, hold on to what you have, because you'll be able to trade it 1-to-1 for our new notes that are backed by gold, or put it into gold and silver by calling Miles Franklin at 952-929-7006 and let our brokers know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you. But my point is, hold on to some cash if you have it, and put it into precious metals so it can operate as your savings. Because if it's in precious metals, you're not going to spend it. And then when all those houses are dumped back on the market, and I see it happening now, I've seen houses come down. First, it was like $5,000, $10,000. Now it's $20,000, $50,000. I'm watching the houses in Florida come down drastically. Watch in your state. It's going to keep happening until we go to prices that was back to 1971. Some people say back to 1951 or before. So I'm excited about that. The prices will go down, but before that, you might see prices continue to creep up into the dollar, and the dollar system has been completely decimated. Oh, Biden had a physical today. Thank you. So that's it, family. I so appreciate you hanging in there with me. I just wanted to give you all the news. Did I cover everything in our recap? I think I did. Oh, I also wanted to say or reiterate that our states are reclaiming their sovereignty. That's why 43 states passed legislation to reclaim silver and gold. That's why states have released the National Guard on the ground following Governor Abbott's lead. That's also why Tennessee decided that they will no longer take money from the United States Department of Education, because they said we can take care of our own children and educate our own children. Yeah. I hear, she says, love being Nubian says, I'm so sick of hearing about these devils that have already been deleted. I hear you. Amen. Mark has 2 houses in Florida, one in Jacksonville and one in Orange Park, both rentals. Yes. I'm in Jacksonville. I think Orange Park is probably about 20 minutes from me. Joel was great to work with at Miles Franklin. That's great to hear, Blanche. So Joel is a broker. My broker's name is Justin, and many of you have brokers with Miles Franklin. So this is if you are interested, and if you have cash or a savings and you desire to put it into precious metals, order from our affiliate who has been in business for 34 plus years with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, not one documented customer complaint, a stellar reputation. All the brokers have all their licenses, all the regulations they've passed, and the people, have clearances. These are people that Andy Scheckman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, knows personally. Some of them are his family members or friends he's been friends with since high school. He believes in supporting his family and his community, which, some people say never hire family, never hire friends. He does not support that thesis. So the people that are hired at Miles Franklin have a stellar reputation, and this is why I'm an affiliate with this company. So if you're interested, call 952-929-7006 and let the brokers know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, so you can get the best prices in the industry. Let's see what else you have. Good day, my sister. Thank you for keeping us informed. You're more than welcome, Anthony Hood. Now, on yesterday, I talked about much of this as it relates to the changing of the guard. And let's see, what else did I talk about on yesterday that I wanted to bring to your attention? That's not it. 1 minute, family. There was something I wanted to. Oh, there was an article that asked, should you put your assets into gold? More and more economists are speaking out about gold. Decades ago, the only economist that I heard speaking out about gold was Peter Schiff, and people made fun of him. They talked about him. They said gold is a relic, that it doesn't make sense to have gold. And now, you're welcome, Sister Beverly, more and more economists are saying gold is money, and that is the best way to hedge against inflation. It's a way to protect your savings, and it's lawful constitutional money. So you can also find an article that says the world is hurtling back towards gold as money. This article asks, should you convert your cash savings into gold? It used to only be Austrian economists that would say that, because Keynesian economists supported the stock market and the USD. But Austrian economists say gold is money. This article says gold as an investment vehicle has withstood the test of time. Human beings, there's human again, the number 6, right? 6 represents human, and the number of man. Human beings have sought out the precious metal for thousands of years, and the interest in gold investing only seems to be growing. If demand for gold continues to tick upward, the price of gold is also likely to increase. Right now, though, inflationary conditions are also driving down the value of the dollar. It's a basic economic principle, as an aside, I've said this many times, that as the dollar decreases in value, gold increases in value. So this article says it can be difficult to protect your cash from losing buying power. Considering that inflation remains persistent in today's economic environment, you may be wondering if it's smart to convert all of your cash savings into gold. In short, the answer is probably not. You probably don't want to invest all of your cash into gold. You always want to keep some cash on hand in the case of emergency, and also to pay your bills. And because we're still on a fiat system, right, worldwide, until we have that official announcement. So in short, the answer is probably not. Don't put all of you, according to this article, your cash into gold. But it could be wise to invest some of your money into precious metals. And here's what you need to know about gold. And I'll go on into why gold is important. If you saw a podcast that I did a few days before. When was this? Let me show you. When was this? This was, I think it was 2 days ago. It says here on my Rumble channel 1 day ago. I actually read a letter that was published in the Miles Franklin Precious Metals newsletter. And this letter was written by David Sheckman, who is the co-founder of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. And he is the father of Andy Sheckman, the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. So let me show you what that podcast looked like, because in that letter, he said the time to act is now. He first published that letter in April. It came out in their newsletter. He talked about how billionaires were getting into gold and people were starting to buy up so much gold that some wholesalers were running out. So he said the time to act is now. I kid you not. And some of you remember this. I was reading his article, simply just reading his article in April. And when I read the article, people started saying their YouTube channel was cut. I can't find you anymore. I started getting messages on my phone saying, Kia, check, we can't hear you anymore. We can't see you anymore. As I was reporting what David Sheckman was saying about how BRICS was coalescing against the West, and BRICS was going to expand and grow, and all these countries that were added onto Brazil, Russia, India, and China, South Africa, that coalition, how it was growing and expanding, how that will lead to a collapse of the dollar. He was saying, take your money out the banks now, put your money into something hard, something secure, something that will grow in value and maintain its value. Put it into hard assets. He was urging us to do it right away. I'm reading the article. YouTube not only cut that podcast, they deleted my whole channel. This was in April. I lost all of my viewers. Lost my channel. I don't even think I had started making money. That was my second channel. I was climbing up to, like, I was about to make $100. Once you make $100, by being in alignment with, or in collaboration with the ads, working as a team with these AdSense or Google Sense or whatever, Google Sense ads. Once you reach up to $100 in ad revenue, then you can actually start taking that money. They'll start putting money in your bank, that $100 and more in the bank. Well, I had just reached the peak of $100 and my viewership was starting to grow. I didn't get any money because they completely shut off my channel. That was the second channel. The first channel they cut off because I was talking about the Biden crime family. So I had gotten, I think, one strike for that. I got another strike for saying that the storm is upon us. And I talked about a number 45 helping to take down the deep state. And I can't even remember what the third strike was about. So I've lost 2 channels and I now have a third YouTube channel up. So family, please go back and look at this. This is on my Rumble channel. It's also on my YouTube channel. It has the same meme here, or whatever you could thumbnail here. I say they don't want you to know that the system is going up in flames. The time to act is now. So he said, made that announcement in April, and that was shortly after a billionaire had contacted Miles Franklin and put $50 million in silver and $50 million in gold. So much is going on, family. I just want to keep you abreast of that. I don't want to keep you too much longer. It's already been 2 hours and 34 minutes. My goodness. Thank you for staying here. A Kansas bill would make gold and silver legal tender in the state. This is huge, Vince Carter said. Absolutely. Kansas is doing it. Well, Ohio, Missouri, many states, 43 states actually passed legislation to reclaim silver and gold as money. I'm trying to look for the article that says 43 states. So that's about it, family. I don't want to keep you much longer. I'll put all of these articles in the description section for you. That's about the end of the summary. I don't think I have anything else to report. So good news for those of you that hold currencies. The banks are preparing right now for those exchanges, to make those exchanges, because again, they need you. So yes, we need them for the exchange, but they need you to protect the bank against losses and to protect. You got cut in mid sentence. Where's that? Did I? Oh man, I don't know what I was saying, Blanche. But they need you, family, if you're holding currencies too, because your tier 2 reserves or assets will protect the bank against losses and against bankruptcies. Altreyu says BRICS actually freed us from continuing to be debt slaves. America has gone on the gold standard. Yes, we have. They're cruddy. Doc, they are doing that to a lot of YouTubers. Wow, cutting us in mid-sentence. Something's happening big, April 8th. All right, family, that's it. I'm getting tired. I know you all have given me so much of your time and energy, and I really appreciate it. We've been on for 2 hours and 36 minutes. We have 245 people in the chat. Please like the channel, whether you're on Rumble or YouTube. I'm sure there's some people on Twitter and Facebook. And too bad some people were on LinkedIn, but they took you off. I apologize for that. Just like they took you off of one of my Facebook channels. I don't know why they keep removing people. They're giving us a hard time reporting, but it's a lot better than it used to be. I'm not censored as much at all as I used to be censored. I'm allowed to speak on a lot of this information, or I'm more free to speak. And I'm wondering if this is because President Trump signed the Digital Bill of Rights Act. Remember, we reported on that when it happened, December 15th, 2022. He did it on the anniversary of the Bill of Rights, which the Bill of Rights were signed into law December 15th. Was it 1791? No, I can't remember what year. I think it was 1791. So, but President Trump signed the Digital Bill of Rights Act December 15th, 2022, and he made that announcement on his Truth Social that he would do that, and he did. And basically, and I've done a report on that, said that social media was no longer allowed to censor us. And if they did try to censor us, they had to have proof that we were doing something nefarious. And they had to let us know before they censored us. You're welcome, Brother David. It's my pleasure. You're welcome, Love BN, Nubian. You're welcome, Soul Family members. So now we are not as censored as much as we used to be. We get cut here and there. We have some Wi-Fi problems. I've had Wi-Fi problems. But I'm very, very grateful that I'm able to present more information now than I used to in the past. Because again, I've been censored on LinkedIn. I've been censored on YouTube. I had a couple of my channels taken. I've even been censored on Rumble. And they're supposed to be a Patriot channel. What else? I had my Instagram channel removed. I had to apply many times to get it back. I never was able to recover it. I had to create a new one. They gave me a hard time even creating a new Instagram account. We've been censored so much, but that's only because we're reporting the truth and they don't want the truth out. But nothing can stop what's coming and nobody can stop us. We are working on the side of God and on the side of truth. Fanta Mesa says, I went into my Wells Fargo bank and they asked if they would be exchanging for foreign. Oh, you went in and you asked if they would be exchanging foreign currency. I said, I know about the new financial system. They said, I can neither confirm or deny that. Thank you. No, when you were reading the letter. Oh, when I was reading the letter on the other channel, they cut me mid-sentence. Thank you. Wow. They don't want people to know about gold and silver. I don't know why. I mean, the whole world is now rushing towards using silver and gold as money. Let's go to King's World. Let me bring that for you. This was published February the 16th, 2023. This article, and I reported it as soon as it came out. Of course, we've been talking about gold before then, but the world is hurtling back toward gold as money. And it talks about how the BRICS coalition is actually growing and inspiring people to use gold to undermine the Western currency system. Therefore, a return to a credible gold standard has significant advantages for Russia and her allies in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, BRICS Plus, and all their commodity suppliers beyond Asia. At the same time, it would destroy the West's fiat currencies and their financial system. They just don't want us to know that their time has come to an end. So family, celebrate, be excited, usher it in faster by giving thanks to the Creator, by giving thanks to your ancestors, by giving thanks to yourself for being able to make it through this time. Just give thanks and operate in gratitude. That releases high vibrational frequencies into the multiverse, and it just expands and makes everybody joyous and prepares our heart to receive this global prosperity and peace. You're welcome. So somebody told me to go and have a good day. I appreciate that. Thanks, Dr. Pruitt. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Peace and love. Peace and love to you, family. We are not to be moved or stopped. You're welcome, Sister Mariana. You found it. Okay. All right, family. We've given you a lot of information and we've chatted a lot together. Thank you so much for joining us today. Are there any final questions? I'll probably have one more minute. Let me look, see if anybody's talking on Rumble. Sometimes I can't see I can see the Rumble comments now. Somebody says, oh, number 44 wasn't a citizen either, and he became the commander-in-chief. Has anybody heard of exchanging with the general public? I keep hearing about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, the internet group. Listen, I know somebody who's I've interviewed on my channel, and he's considered a whale. He made multi-millions of dollars. He's spoken on my channel. He wrote a book, and he told me, he said, people have been saying for the past year, oh, tier 1, the whales have gone. No, we have not. He said, we have not gone. This was several months ago. Then I know somebody who is a part of the global settlements and humanitarian efforts. That what they say is tier 2. And they're telling me that there's no, gurus say that there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, but I'm hearing that's not the truth, that everybody's going to go at the same time. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't really speak on that. I've heard people that I respect say that you will go in tiers or in groups, tier 1 being your whales or people that have tranches of money, suitcases full of money, like your wealthy people, they'll go first. People that's part of humanitarian efforts and the global settlements, they'll go next. Those people who won their settlements against the United States Incorporated, and their tier 3, I think they say internet people, and their tier 4 is supposed to be the public. That's what people are saying. I don't know if that's the case. So I shouldn't speak on it. I would just say that we've got to be awfully close. Countries have already revalued their currencies behind the scenes. They repatriated their gold back to themselves. They have joined BRICS. They stopped trading with the dollar. They're already trading with, their own currencies. They've made those announcements, and we've announced that one by one. When countries did it, they have already returned to gold and the gold standard. So I say we are very close. What about XRP? I'm not really that knowledgeable when it comes to digital assets. So I will leave that to the digital asset experts, family. Wait, I just lost access to my LinkedIn again. Let me connect it again. I don't know much about XRP. I know I have some friends that are into XRP. I know Mel Carmine of XRP QFS Team 1. He knows about XRP. Dave, XRP Lion, knows about XRP. I love you too, D-Mac. I'm more knowledgeable about gold and silver as lawful constitutional money. So I try to stick to what I know, because my sons, who are economists, the real estate brokers, have told me only invest in what you know and understand and what you have enough money for to invest in. Hi, Daryl. I love you back. Oh, you love what I love to me? Thank you. Tier 3. I'm tier 3 and I haven't been paid. I'm not signed an NDA yet. And in case you missed it, I don't believe you'll have to sign an NDA. The purpose of a non-disclosure agreement is to keep information private that's not made known to the public. The public knows about the revaluation of currencies and the global currency reset, so I don't believe you'll have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Secondly, we're all sovereign under the republic that's been restored, so you shouldn't have to keep quiet about your money, what you're going to do with it, and how you're going to spend it. If anybody should have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, I would say the banker has to, because they work for you. The bankers need you. As we reported, they need your revaluation reserves to keep them afloat, to bolster them against losses and bankruptcies. So maybe you can tell them to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm just saying, but I hear what you're saying. You said you're tier 3. You haven't exchanged it. Thank you for giving us that information. It might be because YouTube sons want to pay you, Dr. Kia. YouTube must pay you. I've heard they do that to other creators. Yeah, YouTube doesn't want to pay us. They really don't. Like, wow. It's kind of challenging living off of a YouTube. I don't make enough. Like, I think, was it last month? No, 2 months ago, I think I got $150. Last month I got like $200 from YouTube. And I'm telling you, that's for the whole month. And then they pay you like later on, like the next month. And when you read all the articles, you listen to the videos, you interview a lot of people, you document things, you triangulate, meaning you get at least 3 sources to back you up. Then you report it. You do all this work, and you produce video after video, 1 time a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Just depends on the energy level that you have, the information that you get. And you may not be paid anything, or you might get $100 or $200. Most people that are doing the work that we do here, to tell the truth, cannot live on what we make on YouTube. It's not even considered a salary, like $100. I mean, I went to the grocery store the other day and I spent $70 on a bag of groceries. No, 2 bags of groceries. So just for the meal, for that particular meal. So, they don't want to pay based on the ads anymore. They used to pay good money. They don't want to do that anymore, right? They don't want to pay you. So that's it, family. I need to tend to my family. I love you so very much. So stay encouraged, family. We have had very good news today, breaking news, very good information that you've also contributed to the channel. So that's it, family. Remember, if you're interested in gold and silver, give our friends at Miles Franklin a call at 952-929-7006. I am an affiliate with Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. So let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you. So go out and enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations. If I've risen your vibrations, if I've inspired you or encouraged you in any way with any of this intel, drop it in the comment section. Let us know how being a part of our chat and about a part of this soul community has inspired you and encouraged you. So I hope that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great day, family. Peace. I love you. Bye-bye.